You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Peter Basserman, Chairman of the Branford Inland Wetland Commission. It is May 9th, 2024. It is 7 o'clock. This is a regular meeting of the Inland Wetland Commission. We are going to be using the Zoom platform this evening in accordance with Public Act 22-3. BCTV is recording, so make sure that your face and smile is visible when you are speaking. The agenda for tonight's meeting is, it's filed May 7th. That's a revision of the agenda that was filed originally on May 3rd. It's on the town's website. Material for tonight's meeting has been mailed to the commissioners and is listed on the town's website in the Inland Wetland Dropbox. And that Dropbox access is printed on the agenda for this evening. I'm going to do a roll call of the participants from the commission this evening. Commissioner Begeman.
Commissioner Begeman, present.
Commissioner Boda.
Commissioner Boda, present.
Commissioner Amrad.
Commissioner Amrad, present.
Commissioner Gokowski.
Commissioner Gokowski, present.
Staff, Inland Wetland Enforcement Officer, Jamie Frederick.
Present.
And Inland Wetland Associate, Katie Blanchette.
Present.
Great. We have a quorum for this evening. Everyone that is in attendance is seated and can vote on matters at hand as we go through the agenda. We have 2 minutes to approve the April 25th regular meeting minutes and the May 7th special meeting site walk. Is there a motion for the April 25th, 2024 minutes?
This is Commissioner Begeman. I feel like I was misquoted in the minutes, so I would like to change that. So do I do that now or?
We've done it both ways, I think. Jamie, is any guidance here?
If it's a straightforward change that you can state, then we can make it as part of the motion. If it's something that requires working, then you can direct the change that you would like, and it can be reworked for review at the next meeting.
Yes. Well, I never said that the hearing should be closed, so that should be stricken. And if we want a sentence of what I said instead, I can say that now, or I can just send it to Katie. And we could look at it next time.
I think if you have it before you, it might be helpful to know what you said.
Okay. So if the line starts, Commissioner Begeman indicated that although she had commented the previous meeting that at 11:30 p.m. I said it felt like we were at a place of no solution for this permit application. I also stated I was not ready to make any decision. And then it can
go ahead.
Sorry, then it can continue. She is open to receiving more information in order to make an informed decision on the matter.
I'm going to suggest we table the approval of the regular meeting minutes so that we can make sure that we properly recorded Commissioner Begeman's comments in the minutes for approval. Anybody have issue with that?
Anybody have further comments for consideration for revision?
This is Commissioner Begeman again. I just noticed that some people's names were underlined in the public hearing section and some people weren't. And I just feel like it should be consistent that if anytime someone speaks, their name is, I'm not sure why some are underlined and some aren't, but I think that should be consistent.
I will make those changes and send them over to you, to the entire commission to review.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the special meeting site walks of May 7th. Short and sweet. Any motion to approve those minutes?
Commissioner Boda, I'll make a motion. We approve the May 7th special meeting site walk minutes.
Commissioner Goklowski, I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? Any abstentions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? No opposed. Okay. Next on the agenda is our deliberations. I want to be clear on what the procedure is and what it is not for this item. Public hearing for this application concluded at our last meeting on April 25th of 2024. At this point, the record includes all material previously presented in exhibits 1 through 88, testimony from all parties, and audio recordings of the public hearings and personal knowledge of the area. No new material can be added to the record. The 3 documents have been submitted to the record of the notice of violation proceeding for the same property. However, they're not part of the record of this proceeding and cannot be considered in this decision-making process. The item is noted on the agenda is for the commission to discuss material on the record such that it can render a decision. It is a meeting essentially for the commission. Commission can ask town council and inland wetland staff clarifying questions regarding the information already on the record. As such, is any commissioner present this evening that was absent for all or part of the public hearings of this application? If so, have you listened to the recording of those meetings so that you have a full understanding of the comments made during those meetings? If not, please indicate that you are recusing yourself from participating in this deliberation. Let the record indicate that no commissioner felt that they needed to recuse themselves from
Peter,
the.
There's a hand, you had a hand raised from Matt Ormrod.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Commissioner Ormrod, I just want to state prior to deliberations that I was not present at the meeting on April 25th, 2024. However, I did watch the recording of that meeting in its entirety today. So I do feel prepared to participate in the deliberations this evening.
Thank you for taking the time to do that, Commissioner Omra. Anybody else have comment? Second, is there any commissioners?
I'll add, I left early during, I want to say March 28th, and I did go back and listen/watch the remainder of that evening's hearing.
Thank you, Commissioner Boda. Second,
James
is there?
Frederick and the wetland agent, can you just elaborate whether you feel qualified to deliberate on the matter?
This is Commissioner Boda. I feel qualified to deliberate on the matter.
Commissioner Basserman again. Second, is there any commissioner seated this evening who feels he or she cannot participate in the deliberations regarding this matter in a fair and equitable manner, consistent with our regulations and state statutes? If so, I ask you again to recuse yourself from their matter. Is there any commissioner who feels they cannot deliberate in that fashion? Let the record indicate everyone feels that are seated here tonight that they can be fair in the review of the material. Of note, meetings of this commission have continued to be lengthy in duration during 2024, even though we are now meeting twice a month. As the nature of the items discussed during these meetings are detailed, requiring concentration and critical thinking, I am going to impose a time constraint of 2 hours for these deliberations this evening. The agenda includes other items that at such a time hopefully will allow us to complete the matters before us while maintaining the needed focus and energy. If the 2-hour window is not sufficient for the commission to conclude our deliberations, then it is my intention to move for a continuation till the next meeting. The time limit should in no way be interpreted as restricting this commission to having a fair and full deliberation. If a second meeting is necessary, it will be scheduled. In addition, it's unlikely that a decision would be reached by the commission without a written draft report, as has been our custom. Staff obviously needs time to prepare such a report that outlines the parameters that were pertinent to the commission's discussion. So at this point, Jamie, maybe turn it over to you to kind of outline the regulations that we will be, I don't want to say constrained by, but the regulations that allow us to proceed here.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland agent. So, excuse me, a lot of times during deliberations, the commission consults this section of the regulations, criteria for decision, which by and large comes directly from state statute with very minor modifications. So I can screen share those and we can run through them one at a time. If commissioners want to review any materials relative to any of those items, let me know. I have them all available, and I am getting blinded right now by the sun, so I will be hopping up momentarily once I get my screen shared. All right, is everyone able to see the criteria for decision?
Yep.
So I don't know if we want to run through them one by one, but like I said, it's getting worse. I'm gonna shut the curtain. So if somebody wants to take over the first one or just kind of skim it while I am doing that real quick.
We don't totally need to read these into the record, Jamie, right? So everybody can just peruse what the screen share is indicating.
I think it's important to identify the, that all has been considered. So I think it wouldn't hurt to read them. If you're not a commissioner, if you can just mute your line for the time being.
All right, this is Commissioner Bassman. Criteria for decision. This is 10.2. In carrying out the purposes and policies of sections 22A-36 to 22A-45, inclusive of the CGS as amended, including matters related to regulating, licensing, and enforcing the provisions thereof, the agency shall take into consideration all the relevant facts and circumstances, including but not limited to A, the environmental impact of the proposed regulated activity on wetlands and watercourses, B, the applicant's purpose for, and any feasible improvement alternatives, 2, the proposed regulated activity, which alternatives would cause less or no environmental impacts to wetlands or watercourses, C, the relationship between the short-term and long-term impacts of the proposed regulated activity on wetlands or watercourses and the maintenance and enhancement of long-term productivity of such wetlands or watercourses. D, irreversible and irretrievable loss of wetland or watercourse resources which would be caused by the proposed regulated activity, including the extent to which such activity would foreclose the future ability to protect, enhance, or restore such resources, and any mitigation measures which may be considered as a condition of issuing a permit for such activity, including, but not limited to, measures to 1, prevent or minimize pollution or other environmental damage, 2, maintain or enhance existing environmental quality, or 3, in the following order of priority, restore, enhance, and create productive wetland or watercourse resources. E, the character and degree of injury to or interference with safety, health, or the reasonable use of property which is caused or threatened by the proposed regulated activity, and F, impacts of the proposed regulated activity on wetlands or watercourses outside the area for which the activity is proposed and future activities associated with or reasonably related to the proposed regulated activity, which are made inevitable by the proposed regulated activity and which are likely to have an impact on wetlands or watercourses. Am I done here?
That completes the section.
Any other statutory or regulatory language that we need to review, Jamie?
I mean, only if specific things come up, I suppose, but these are the outlined criteria for decision. Yeah, I think it kind of depends on where the discussion goes.
Does any commissioner want to initiate conversation tonight regarding the deliberations of 24.01.02? Can you take down the screen share, Jamie? There we go.
This is Commissioner Boda. I wonder if it makes sense to kind of start with the top and really address what the thinking is on the environmental impact. And if there is a finding of impact on wetlands and water courses.
Commissioner Ormrod, I could start with where I believe is the impact. Based on all the information and the testimony and the expert testimony the impact isn't immediate. And, we've had several soil scientists, say that, there's no active or short-term impacts. And I do believe that is true, but the current structure, and I want to call it a structure because, it kind of incorporates a lot of purposes, a patio, a driveway, a parking area, a patio, storage, and what stuck with me was that the builder sort of went through phases with this thing, and it seems like the purpose of the structure changed mid-construction. So at first they were building, a retaining wall and a patio, and then there was a need to, support the load of a vehicle or two vehicles. And so the impacts to the wetland and water course, which we have here in this situation, is the fact that they have a structure that was not designed by a professional engineer. It was built by an experienced builder, but I don't think that person qualifies to take into account the load and the forces that the structure is going to be subject to. And I know we've had a lot of expert testimony on the integrity of the structure as it stands, but I feel that a lot of those opinions were based on a few photos that were shown, sort of in the early or mid stages of the construction. We saw rebar. There was some drilling, installation of rebar. We saw a lot of. There was obviously some manipulation of the pre-existing, pre-construction in the area. There was grass, there was topsoil, and there was some rock outcrop, and that was all stripped, removed. And then we also saw in the pictures that there were pieces. It looked to me like there were chunks of bedrock, and what I surmise happened was that, while they were trying to pin rebar into the ground to pour a stable, base course that cement, they probably found, there were several pictures of that bedrock. It obviously looks highly fractured. It's weathered. What I surmise happened was that they didn't drill into something competent, so it had to be hammered out and removed, or otherwise manipulated. So we have a lot of changes to how surface water and infiltration interacts with that surface, with that cover, in that area. So the impacts to wetlands, I think I interpret is that, one, we have a structure that was not designed for the purpose it serves, and what I'm in long term, I don't, because that wasn't designed by an engineer or a qualified professional. My fear is that we're looking at a potential catastrophic failure of the structure, and based on the site walk that I attended, it seems very likely or reasonable that in the event of a catastrophic failure, that structure, the concrete blocks, the backfill behind it, the stone, pavers, a car, or whatever is on or behind that wall, it seems very likely that it could deposit in the wetland, and that is pretty serious impact, potential impact to the wetland. I mean, it's it could be detrimental to that portion of the wetland and anything upstream or downstream of that, because we've been told that it's serving more of a drainage purpose from the street, and there are upstream and downstream impacts that something of that nature could be very serious. The other sort of interesting impact is, because there was manipulation of the cover material, the grass, the topsoil, there was some manipulation of the bedrock, it seems, and then the patio and all the backfill material behind the wall. I just don't think we're ever going to get a very high resolution understanding of how surface water precipitation is now interacting with all of those changes. And it seems pretty reasonable to me that, based on the orientation of those fractures in the rock, and the fact that there's been back and forth about pervious, impervious as water, I think it's pretty obvious that there is some sheet flow. It's but there is some water infiltrating that patio. I don't think it's absolutely impervious. So I think there's been some kind of change to the upland hydrology, such that it's now potentially diverting water towards the neighboring structure, 34 Howard Avenue. Do I have that right? I might be confusing them. I believe, yeah, 34 Howard Avenue. That, and we saw in the video that, that's undermining the foundations of the building. And we've had expert testimony from a structural engineer that, if that condition continues to play out, there is a potential for, another catastrophic failure of the building, because the foundation is being undermined. And again, for the same reason, if such a catastrophic failure were to occur, it just seems really reasonable to me that the building materials, anything stored in the building, it's close enough to the wetland and water course that I think it would reach it and to be deposited into it. So, I think I feel as though, given the volume of material that we're looking at, the commission bears some responsibility on looking into the long-term impacts, which really have not been discussed all that much. We've been, everything's been focused on, the relationship, the short-term impacts. So to me, those are the impacts to wetlands, that I interpret that are present. So yeah, thank you.
This is Commissioner Basket. Just to be clear on what you stated, Matt, in your belief system, you said at the beginning that you didn't feel that there was any short-term impact. You were speaking to the wetlands at that point, I assume.
Yes, in its current condition, its current state, I don't feel there are any impacts to the wetlands or water courses at the site. Yes.
As a follow-up to that, do you believe in the short term, what you observed with the material presented in the course of the proceedings, that there is seepage, water getting through the bedrock, etc., onto the adjoining property?
I do feel that the hydrology has been altered because of the earthwork and the construction of that structure, and it seems, based on the fracture pattern in that bedrock, it's oriented directly at 34 Howard Avenue, and it's pretty clear that 34, the foundation and the ground level of 34 Howard Avenue is directly down gradient of this structure, and really, like, sort of the western portions of 38 Howard Avenue.
One more time, the applicant, I believe, provided evidence that they claim that there is no water leaving 38 onto the adjoining property based on evidence that they perceived. And obviously we got a different story from the adjoining property. So is this a question of, which set of facts do you believe at this point regarding not necessarily the impact on the wetlands, but the water hydrology from 38?
Yeah, and that's a tough call, because I don't know how we would figure out how to measure or get some empirical evidence of how water, we'll say precipitation, how it falls on 34 Howard or 38 Howard Avenue, how it interacts with the altered surface. But if anything, seeps down in through the structure, it seems reasonable to believe that the water will ultimately hit the bedrock and travel in the direction of those fractures, which is directed at 34 Howard Avenue.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Goklowski. We've heard evidence from both sides of the aisle, very qualified individuals on both sides of the aisle, to defend their actions of the construction of the wall, and to and the impact that it has on 34 Howard. Where my problem lies is we as a commission didn't have the opportunity to actually see how the wall was being constructed, what the actual material was being put behind that wall. And on the same token, it took almost the whole time that we were meeting on this matter for the original contractor to appear at a meeting and then produce pictures of the wall under construction. So why weren't, my question is, there was information that wasn't available to us in the beginning, and maybe should have. It makes me a little apprehensive of what the long-term, short-term, long-term. The problem is there's an issue here that a retaining wall was constructed without any knowledge of the town and any knowledge of the building department or the Inland Wetlands Commission to see what was going to happen.
This Commissioner Bassman. Go ahead, Commissioner Boda.
This is Commissioner Boda. We were in the public hearing for a long time, and as you mentioned earlier, there's 88 files in the Dropbox for this, and I think we're at a point where kind of broad statements are not going to necessarily move us forward, which is why I suggested that, in criteria 10.2, it's A through F. And I think if we can work through that in a meaningful way, and specifically reference, so essentially what we need to do is determine, I hear Commissioner Ormrod, you're alluding to some of the language used by Mr. Ashtantino and Mr. Sonicson. And I think that we're at a point where if we're going to make a claim about either short-term or long-term, then it would be really helpful for us to say, okay, so here's the the piece of information that is guiding my thinking, because while each of us may have some level of expertise, I don't know that anybody here is an engineer, and so whatever. So and personally, I would find that also really helpful. This is a tremendous amount of material to go through, and so my preference would be to just work through those bullets. And I agree. I don't, it seems like that I'm concerned about, I'm wondering what folks are thinking about this impact, like a direct impact. And Attorney Shansky has been very clear, and Mr. Ashtantino and Mr. Sonic said a lot of it has been about the wall and the patio, and I'm looking for, first and foremost, that connection to 10.A. So that would be my bid, is that if folks have thoughts about okay, here is evidence for short-term impact, long-term impact, let's talk about that, annotate what we think about it, and then move on to B.
This is Commissioner Bassman. I guess that was kind of what was driving my question to Commissioner Amrod, which, there's evidence presented both ways regarding current hydrology leaving 38 and to the adjoining property. I think it comes down to, if that is current situation, both parties claiming that that's a current situation, it gets down to what's the evidence that we as a individual commissioner believe is true. Is the wall seeping water into the adjoining property currently, or is it not? To me, that's a fundamental question, regardless of how the wall was built or not. And if we don't see it right now as being a current issue, then we can certainly talk about the long term. But I think we need to separate the short term issues regarding water hydrology movement and the long term potential.
Yeah, so I guess to put my opening statement in context with 10.2a, I don't believe there are any current impacts to wetlands or watercourses. And I don't think there is sufficient evidence to suggest that there's any significant amount of water being diverted to 34 to the neighboring property. I don't think that there's enough evidence on record to prove that we have a good understanding of how water is interacting with this structure in the upland area.
Mr. Gokowski, where's your head on this? Current situation, water leaving 38.
I'm looking through I was just going through the Dropbox file. I believe there was a photo of that was in the file that showed the wall weeping. Is there a significant amount of water coming off the property at this time, or? I don't think so. Okay, I don't think so. But we don't know what's going to happen 6 months from now either.
No question. I'm just talking current situation to try to focus to the point that Commissioner Boda made. How about you, Commissioner Begeman?
This is Commissioner Begeman. I think whether or not water is going to a neighboring property or whether the hydrology has changed, the information we have by all the soil scientists says that there has been no current impact to the watercourse and wetlands. So I feel like it's almost not even worth talking about where the water's going, except for the hypothetical that it could undermine the foundation next door, et cetera. But that's a hypothetical, and and Anaskovich can tell us if this is correct or not, but we cannot make a decision based on a hypothetical.
This is Commissioner Boda. I would like to agree with that statement. The courts have been very, very clear that we cannot base a decision off of it may happen. There must be finding of fact on the record that it is likely to occur. And so the mere possibility, the mere showing of a possibility or a discussion of a possibility is not enough to deny a permit, period.
I
I'm trying to keep it
more.
brief, Attorney Anaskovich. I'm trying to keep it brief, so I just cut myself off.
I like that. I just like the period. I think that's good. I like it.
Commissioner Boda, do you believe there is water infiltrating 34 Howard from 38 Howard as a result of water seeping through the wall, the bedrock, or whatever else is underneath the wall?
Well, this is Commissioner Boda. I think, Mr. Ascentino has provided us with quite a bit of testimony on water moving through those fissures. And I think to Commissioner Begeman's point, the water moving through the fissures doesn't then, what's missing is that connection to the wetland and an impact to the wetland. And so and maybe this will come up later as we talk about 10.2E, maybe it's a factor for consideration, but in terms of impact to wetland, I don't see there being evidence for that in the record.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Yeah, I think the preponderance of the information provided by multiple soil scientists as well as others, in my mind, in my view, does not currently directly impact the water course or the wetland. I think the photos that were presented did not have the same impact for me that the other testimony and reports on the hydrology had in terms of convincing me that at least at this point, things appear to not be infiltrating water on the adjoining property. I agree. I think the patio is somewhat pervious. And I think also that there were certainly opportunities for water to impact the bedrock. We may not have had sufficient evidence of major storms and in terms of how that the amount of water that will go through all that material underneath the wall. But that starts to then suggest that, well, we don't have the evidence on the record for that, and therefore can't conclude anything regarding that at this point. Short term. Is there anything else in your mind, Commissioner Boda, that encompasses that section 10.2A that we have not discussed yet?
No, I don't. I mean, I personally, I don't think so. There was a tremendous amount of time focused on the house and the wall, and that's certainly important. But our jurisdiction is quite narrow, and so I think that we're not really seeing that short-term impact.
Any other commissioner feel that there's additional information that needs to be discussed before we can move on to 10.2B? Okay, maybe Jamie, can you post 10.2B again? I know I read it, but okay, thank you. This is Commissioner Basserman. I guess I don't recall seeing feasible and prudent alternatives to the current application regarding the wall. Am I incorrect on that, or can somebody refresh my memory?
Amy Frederick and the wetland agent. So I think to answer your question, there was an original plan and then a modified plan submitted, which was initially called an alternative, but it was deemed the preferred alternative, with the rationale that it would be less earth removal. And then there was a narrative regarding alternative analysis / appropriateness of an alternatives analysis in one of Marjorie Shansky's letters. If you want, I can try and locate that.
Yeah, you can take down the screen share.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Boda. I think that would be helpful. I think it's also important to note in 2B that prudent and feasible alternatives really has to do with that, again, impact to wetland and water courses. And so if we have just said, like, we're not really seeing that impact, at least we talked really about the short-term impact. If we're not seeing an impact to wetlands, then there wouldn't necessarily, let me back up. When we know that there is an application that has impact to wetlands, we indicate that there are impacts, significant impacts, and therefore there must be prudent and feasible alternative analysis. That was not determined in this particular application. And so, it would be out of our past practice at this point to say, well, there should have been a prudent and feasible alternative submitted. So I don't know if, Jamie, that gave you enough time to find the letter.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, I can't swear that this is the only language, but I did find, let's see, this is page 3, February 15th, 2024 letter. I see a heading, an alternative for the agency's consideration. So this is the alternative that was, this was back when that alternative plan, which became the preferred plan, was being created, I believe. It says, as an alternative during this process, we have become aware that at its meeting on January 18th, 2024, the Branford Planning and Zoning Commission discussed and ratified its interpretation of section 6.13.c of the Branford zoning regulations that has been in effect since 2015. Specifically, the members of the commission agreed that retaining walls 3 feet or less in height are not subject to setbacks. They are also not subject to building permits. Expert of Connecticut Building Code attached. In other words, instead of removing the retaining wall as proposed, except for the encroachment part that is not included in the pending application, the applicant will lower the wall, regrade the area affected by the lowering of the wall, as shown on a plan prepared by Jim Preddy, PE, provided this alternative offers substantially less site disturbance in the upland review area than removal and relocation of the wall represents through either way the watercourse will be unaffected. Also enclosed is a copy of the minutes from the zoning meeting.
So this is Commissioner Bassman. So essentially there was a alternative to the plan which had to do with the wall, not necessarily anything to do with impact on wetlands.
Are you asking me?
Anybody. That's what I got out of
Thinking out
the
loud.
last 3 minutes of the discussion. Is that a correct interpretation?
Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent. I think so, but I guess I just would maybe, I'm not sure that if I'm splitting hairs or re-saying what you're saying in a different way. But as we're aware, a majority of this is an after-fact application. The wall is constructed. The application was to modify the wall in an effort to try and get approvals for the wall. So originally the wall was to be relocated, a significant portion of it along the shared property line so that it was set 3 feet off of the property line. And the revised proposal is to lower it to what they understand to be a permittable height along the property line. So it's reducing the amount of additional activity, if you will.
But Mr. Commissioner Bassett, but essentially we didn't touch anything under the 3 foot height in terms of the wall. So any of the hydrology effects would, I assume, remain the same.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, I think that is fair to say, given that the retaining wall detail was revised to reflect the existing condition as far as the drainage.
Right. Okay. So I guess nothing in I guess we could consider the alternative preferred plan as the change, if you will, in plan. But to Commissioner Boda's point, because there was no impact on wetland immediately, there is no need to present a feasible and prudent alternative with the current plan.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. So I would say that is fair to say. Generally speaking, or statutorily speaking, if the commission determines that an application is likely to have a significant impact on wetlands or watercourses, the commission must consider prudent and feasible alternatives. If the commission does not make that finding, then the commission may consider prudent and feasible alternatives. And again, those prudent and feasible alternatives relate back to the impact to wetlands and or watercourses.
Yeah, just to rewind this, Commissioner Bassman, rewind for me, Jamie. Why was the alternative plan not presented as a prudent and feasible alternative to the original plan, as opposed to what they did, which is present a whole new application?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, I'm not sure I follow your question. But I do want to point out that town council has their hand raised and may have, if you want to maybe.
I would love to get
refer to his comment and then re-ask your question.
Yeah, I may be way off base here. So before I go too far off base, Bill, you have a comment.
Yeah, I wanna underscore and emphasize Commissioner Boda's comments, which are right on the money. First, the commission should keep in mind that the statute and our regulations, which repeat the statutory factors, are factors for consideration, not required elements of an application. And so in this particular case, it's entirely relevant that if there are no findings of significant impact to the wetlands, there'd be no reason to offer logically a prudent and feasible alternative to minimize those impacts. So instead of reading the factors of consideration as required elements of an application, I think you have to take them into consideration as they're presented, which is that second factor is there in order to allow a commission to consider feasible and prudent alternatives to something in which they found a significant wetlands impact. And so in this case, as Commissioner Boda pointed out, if you found no wetlands impacts, it's not necessary to consider that second factor.
Okay. That does it for me. Anything else on item B that we need to review? All commissioners want to move on to the next item? Jamie, can you post that? If I'm hearing nothing, we post the C, or is there a comment on item B?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. So I was just quickly skimming through the other letters to see if there would be anything else relevant. And I'm reminded that in the summary letter from Attorney Shansky dated April 25th, 2024, she provides short responses, it looks like, to at least some, if not all, of these criteria. Would the commission like to see those responses as we go through the items for consideration?
Sure.
Essentially, or I'll wait until I guess I get an answer.
This is Commissioner Boda. I think I would like, personally, I would like us to kind of work through our own thoughts, and then, perhaps we can kind of go back to that piece of the record. But I don't want necessarily that driving our decision. I think this way works, and then we can go back and maybe she would have pointed out something that we missed, maybe.
Everybody ready? This is Commissioner Bassman. Everyone ready to move on to C? Somebody nod their head. Thank you. Okay.
This is Commissioner Bagman. I'm just, if you don't have any short-term proven, I'm not sure how you can prove that there's some long-term. So there's no relationship if there aren't any short-term. I mean, I don't know if that's too simplistic, but.
This is Commissioner Bassman. I guess it would have to depend on your knowledge of the current situation, as was pointed out previously, to the extent that there's, below surface movement of water that with time will make the paths for that water flow to move either with greater velocity or greater volume than it does today. I could see where you could have a situation, no short term, but because of what's in place that's preventing detrimental impacts deteriorating over time, would give you a long-term impact. But I don't know that there's enough evidence presented at this point that we understand that condition that I just talked about. Can you remove that, Jamie? I think we, essence, know what C is about.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Begeman. Again, I'm just going by what has been presented in terms of the preponderance of the evidence of showing no short-term effects. And that leaves, without knowledge, you can't predict long-term effects. So, I mean, I don't think we have, we've had people say that this may lead to X, Y, and Z, but we haven't said this is likely to lead to X, Y, and Z. So that's where I am.
Commissioner Ambrad, this is Commissioner Bassman, you were concerned about the long term. Is there anything in the material presented on the record that, to Commissioner Begeman's point, puts you in the likely category for long-term detrimental impact?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Bassman. Commissioner Ormrod. Yeah, I think I'll just keep referring to them as my opening remarks earlier in the meeting. Those were hypotheticals like that, right. I don't think there's enough evidence. That's more of, sort of my thought process on what might happen or what could happen. And to the point that Commissioner Begerman was just talking about, I don't think we have sufficient understanding of the hydrology and the interactions of surface water and the bed and water flow and the bedrock fracture. So, I'd have to agree that, yeah, you know, I don't think there's enough evidence to suggest likely long-term impacts to wetlands or water courses. You know, my opening remarks were more general on that. You know, it would, it seems likely that, given if the situation in the basement isn't addressed, that, the foundation of that house would be undermined. But, that really, like, yeah, it's not, I guess, not specific to wetlands and water course impacts. And it is a hypothetical situation that may happen in the future. So there's just there's, yeah, so I guess I hope that makes sense. I could try and clarify if you lead me on a little.
Anybody else have thoughts on how we jump from a short-term situation, which we can observe now, to, as Commissioner Begeman said, a likely scenario of impact down the road?
This is Commissioner Goklowski. The proposed alternative plan raises a question in my mind that if we're reducing the wall size down to 3 feet, we're also going to have to remove the pavers and reset the pavers and reset the whatever's under those pavers, because you're going to be reducing the wall down that much. And if my memory serves me correctly, that wall was about 4.5 feet at one point. In the beginning part, it was very short because it was along the property lines, but it gradually got higher as it went around, and then it was quite high from the point on the rear side of the property. So my question is, if that alternative plan is going to reduce the size of the wall, it's also going to have, the pavers are going to have to come up, and they're going to have to redo whatever they did underneath in the beginning.
This is Commissioner Bassman. I guess I have not a good understanding of why the pavers need to be removed when you're removing the top portion of the wall.
Because then the pavers are going to be flush with the wall, and the pavers should be set down a little below the wall. So the runnage, you're going to have then the water, whatever water is going to be hitting that pavement is going to go right over the top of the wall. Right now, there's a little lip, if I remember correctly.
Commissioner Goklowski, are you speaking from your personal understanding of pavers, or are you referring to something that Mr. Ashtantino or Mr. Sonicson?
Just what I reviewed from the pictures and the information that was contained in the file. And because they're going to be significantly dropping the wall. And so if they're going to significantly drop the wall, they have to reset the pavers. That's, and there was no mention in the application of how they plan on doing that. That's my only question.
This Commissioner Bassman, that's an issue I guess I didn't reflect on. Is there a construction detail that we can look at regarding the reduction of the wall, Jamie, and whether there was mention of paver removal?
Jamie Frederick, Wetland Agent. Yes, let me pull that up. So I'm actually going to hop over to, so this is the kind of overall site plan, if you will, showing the existing and proposed. So this is the proposed condition. So I'm on that. Let me pull up one other. Okay, so this is the existing condition. So you can see the current extent of the paver patio. And the proposed extent does pull the paver patio back. And then if you look at this call out here, portion of existing retaining wall encroachment to be relocated in the future once permission is granted by owners of 34 Howard Ave. It's been identified that that's not part of the subject application, but you can see that that extends this section of the wall. So this section of the wall is not proposing to be modified. And then it's essentially here through the end of what the existing wall that will be modified. I'm not sure if there's much being modified over here. And then
Well,
here's the existing retaining wall.
Mr. Basserman, what's the white area between the pavers and the wall?
That's a landscape bed per the representation.
So at least in that area, pavers were not abutting the wall, correct?
Correct.
And is there a reduction in the wall where the curve is and where your cursor is now?
Let me jump over to this other side. So this is the proposed condition. So essentially, I don't know if I can make it so you can see both sides at a time where, so existing and proposed. Existing top of wall is 41.2 and it's proposed to be 40.6. So it looks like the answer to that would be yes.
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Baskin, correct me if I'm wrong, the pavers in that section where the curve is going down to the right, pavers were not abutting that wall in either the current condition or the proposed condition. The only issue we have with paver removal, I guess, is that section, I don't know how many pavers that is, but between where's the marker on this? You're testing my eyes. Wow. What's that 41? Where that marker is 41.3
over here
on the proposed, right? Where's that similar marker on the existing?
I think that that's a proposed elevation. So I don't know that it is it wouldn't be on the existing.
Okay, but can we do distance wise or whatever from the curve to determine?
I think the question was geographically where is that location?
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Boda.
So Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, you can see they've identified limit of paver driveway pre-January 2023 patio / retaining wall work, which is shown here and here. So, and it looks like you can see this 39.6 existing spot elevation on the neighboring property and the same over here, 39.6, which is a little bit closer to the existing driveway than they proposed to scale the pavers back.
All right, so you got maybe 10 paver that look like they got to be removed under the proposed plan.
And you can see that 39.6 here on the proposed plan with that area of wall to remain.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Goklowski. If you refer to photo 47 of the property photos, you could see the height of the from where the paver stopped to the height of the wall. And that's what I was talking about. If they have to reduce this by anything, they have to pick up some of the pavers too.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, they're not proposing to reduce the height of the wall in this area. I'm not entirely sure exactly where it is. Let's see. So here you can see the edge of the existing pavers in this photo. And I'm gonna actually go to the existing conditions. So it looks like, oh, not existing, sorry, proposed. No, trying to think of the best way to try and help orient everyone. So if we're looking at the existing conditions, the edge of the paver patio lines up approximately with the end of the house on the neighboring property, if you will. So if we go back to here, this is the approximate edge of the existing pavers right here. And
the wall at that height, Commissioner Bassman, the wall at that height, Jamie, is what?
currently, where the end of the pavers is,
Yeah,
it looks to be, oh boy, sorry. It says top of wall 40.6. And then it looks like towards a little bit further down slope, we've got a spot elevation of 36.5. So
we got 4 feet at that
4
point.
feet.
So I may not understand the deconstruction, I should say, but wouldn't they just take, I don't know, 1 or 2 blocks off for that 1 foot difference between the current 4 feet and the proposed 3 feet? They're not going to touch anything but that top 1 or 2 courses, right?
I believe that's the representation that was made by the applicant. And if you look at the various, you can kind of see these lines with different top of wall elevations. So it looks like the last step, if you will, before you get to the curve is about where that existing patio line is. And again, that patio line is proposed to be pulled back.
Is Commissioner Bassman, is there a narrative on the deconstruction other than a picture?
Construction sequence is on the screen. Let me know if the commission wants me to read it or if you're good reading it yourself.
That's the construction. Does it also include the removal? Yeah, remove wall cap and disassemble block. And make the new top resolve wall cap and so on. There's nothing about pavers in there that I can see.
This is Commissioner
It
Begum on
says
the
step
number
2, remove paver blocks back to new limits.
Yeah.
Oh, item 2. Gotcha.
This is Commissioner Begum. I think I'm getting a little lost. We're talking about this as a future impact. Is that what we're discussing this because we're concerned it may have a future impact? I'm not sure why we got into this.
This is Commissioner Boda. I would second that. I'm not sure. I second that.
This is Commissioner Bassman. I raised the question because Commissioner Goklowski was talking about the removal, and I assume the effect that would have on water movement under the proposed plan. Then I guess I didn't understand that there was going to be paver removal. That's why I followed it.
So is the concern then the possibility of short-term impact during construction?
That was, this is Commissioner Bassman, that was my assumption on why Commissioner Goklowski raised that issue. I may be entirely wrong.
No, you're absolutely correct, Commissioner.
So then again, Commissioner Boda, if we're talking about moving pavers, what can you make the connection between moving pavers and an impact to the wetland? Like what is the
current runoff? There is a blockage on the side paver wall. If they remove that wall, that cap in that wall, that lip there, that water is going to run off somewhere and it's going to run off right into the wetlands.
This is Commissioner Begemon. They talk about reinstalling a cap. So I think that they have that covered. They're not going to not have a cap the length of the wall.
Jamie Frederick in the wetland agent. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt or cut you off. I just want to point out that the plan does have some spot elevations immediately on the inside of the proposed modified wall. And so, for example, here you can see the elevation above the retaining wall is proposed to be 41.2, where the top of the retaining wall is 41.9. Another example over here is 39.8, where the top of the wall is 40.1. 40.8, where the top of the wall is 41.2. I don't know if that addresses the concern.
This is Commissioner Bassman. Jamie, that had nothing to do with the pavers, especially where you just pointed out the last one where the curve is. You're saying that you've got less than, I don't know, 2 inches in those elevations between the top of the wall and the vegetated area or grass area, landscaped area? Is that
I think the main, well, Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, what I was trying to point out is the fact that there is still proposed to be a slight elevation of the wall over the existing patio slash upper level grade, if you will, the grade behind the retaining wall. It sounded like the concern was whether sheet flow from the patio might overtop.
right? That's and you've got 30. Am I reading this right? 40.1 and 39.8.
There's so many numbers, I'm not sure where you're reading.
Where the curve is, top of the curve.
39.8, where the top of the wall is 40.1.
Right. So,
Or sorry,
is that 4 inches?
sorry, that, yeah. And then over,
And the wetland is in which direction? To the left?
the wetland is in this direction over here. So here's the corner of the retaining wall and the wetland.
Mm-hmm. And we're going from 40, thereabouts, 40, 39 down to 27, 23, something like that. Okay. Commissioner Gorkowski, with this proposal, if it was completed, you're concerned about this as a current condition?
I'm concerned that it's going to be a current condition, a problem for a current condition, because the runoff, they're saying all the expert testimony up until this point said there's no direct impact to the wetlands as it sits right now. If we go and change it and reduce the size of what it is, there could be a direct impact to the wetlands. I mean, we've listened to testimony for 6-7 months that there's no impact, and now they come up with a plan to reduce the size of the wall, and there's got to be some changing of the patio blocks, or the pitch is going to be different. So there's got to be some kind of impact.
Well, I guess the question is there anything on the record from the budding property owner that refutes the fact that water topping over the wall is going to impact the wetlands? This is Commissioner Bassman again. I remember testimony, and I looked at testimony recently that talked about under the wall, and because of the way the wall was constructed and the fissures and all that, I don't recall this patio spillover as something that was put on the record by the adjoining property owner.
I don't believe there was any testimony of water going over the top of the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Jamie, there's 88 documents, and I certainly don't have intimate knowledge on all 88. Is that a correct assessment by Commissioner Goklowski that we don't have anything on the record that causes a concern currently with the proposed plan implemented?
specifically in regards to the cap conversation that's been ongoing, there was a detail regarding, and I cannot think of the language, regarding the cap that was on the original plan that was removed when it was modified for this plan, which a concern was raised over, and the engineer that did the plan identified that that was an oversight on his part to not include that detail. And so it seems that that detail theoretically could be added if as like a condition of approval if the commission thought that was appropriate.
And the Commissioner Bassman, the detail that was missed was what specifically?
Bear with me for a minute. Why is this so hard to find? It was this joint seal where grade meets back of wall comment.
Oh, that was just the caulking that was missed?
I believe so.
Yeah, well, it doesn't do anything about the elevation or anything. That was the seepage, if I remember now the discussion, that was the seepage between basically the the pavers or the landscaped area, I forget which, and the wall itself. I don't know that there was an issue regarding heat flow over the wall.
I guess Jamie Frederick and the Wetland agent, that's the only comment or testimony I can think of relative to the cap that was brought up specifically as a concern.
Okay. I think we've beaten this one.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut off Commissioner Begman. It sounded like she may have had a comment.
This is Commissioner Begman. I just think that, yes, it's a good point that there should be a cap along the length of that. And I think that that's something that then we can make a condition as somebody suggested, maybe you, Jamie, but I think we can move on.
Second that one. Anything else on, where were we on? C? Yeah, we're on C. We still have, even if we, this is Commissioner Bassman, even if we put a condition of approval on a cap for the short-term issue, et cetera, I don't know that we have a likely impact on the wetlands based on the evidence presented during the proceedings. Does anyone feel different?
This is Commissioner Boda. No, I think all of the reference to impact to wetland, it's just been that kind of statement, possible impact to wetland and not anything specific that we can address.
Okay. Item D. It's a long one.
This is Commissioner Boda. I mean, this is a long one, but I think it is not an applicable one in that we're not talking about wetland filling.
Mhm. Well, this Commissioner Bassman, you've already said that there's no short-term impact to the wetland or watercourse.
Right. And this, when I like this one, it really, this is Commissioner Boda. This one really speaks to that wetland loss, and I don't think that that is an issue here.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Ormrod. I don't think there are any regulated activities in the wetlands or watercourse other than replanting native vegetation. Again, this is after the fact. There may have been some vegetation clearing, in the wetland, but that's kind of irrelevant now. So I think the new application does have items that would restore vegetation that was previously cut. So yeah, I think I tend to agree with Commissioner Voda. I think item 10.2D is mostly not applicable to this situation.
Peter, for the folks at home, can you try re-angling your camera or her
Can I try what?
BCTV's request?
Oh, all I'm looking at is the,
Just
I'm
trying to
just
see your
looking at
face.
the screen save. Oh, I can do it, I guess. All right.
No, you're good now.
No, I just get rid of the screen save. Okay. All right, item E.
I think it's probably because you're getting comfortable in your chair and leaning back. We end up
I
seeing
was,
the
but
top-
I
we
didn't
end
think
up seeing
anybody
the
could
top of
see
your
me.
head.
Yeah, I didn't think anybody could see me because all I'm looking at is the 10.2.
Yeah.
All right, item E. That's, I don't know that we talked a lot about safety and health and all that, but I don't think there's anything on the record that gives us the ability to address item E.
This is Commissioner Boda. I think this is the one that is giving me the most pause. I think that, again, Mr. Ashtantino's testimony was quite compelling in terms of how those fissures redirect the water into the the adjacent property. And it kind of, so this reasonable use of property, which is caused or threatened so by the proposed regulated activity. I think this is the one that I'm really struggling with the most, because I do think that there is a significant amount of testimony from an expert witness indicating that this is a problem. I also, I don't ever remember calling upon 10.2E, and I don't know what, I don't know how to proceed with that one. I mean, we didn't really, I'm not really sure what to do with that, but I do think that there is a finding on the record, with the testimony of Mr. Astrantino, that there is a degree of safety, health, reasonable use of property, which is caused or threatened by the proposed regulated activity.
This is Commissioner Begeman. I think I'd like to ask Attorney Anaskovich about this, because it's an unintentional, it was like a side effect of the regulated activity, if it is, that led to the water going more into 34, et cetera, that caused a safety concern. It's not pertaining to the permit for 38 itself. So I don't know. I mean, that would be my question to you is, can we only look at the safety and hazards for 38?
Bill Anaskovich, while I recognize that the language of subsection E is drawn broadly, I don't think you can, and I don't think the cases support this. And it looks pretty clearly like we're going to move to a second meeting to continue the deliberation. And so I will have time to look at some case law for you on this, but I would caution reading subsection E in isolation from a finding that there's a wetland impact that poses a safety, health, or reasonable use of property problem. Commissioner Boda, I see what you're saying, but I don't think we can, I'm not sure that the cases will support separating that language from a wetland impact. In other words, I think that,
I think what I hear you saying is that that in order for 10.2E to be a criteria, it's that injury or interference would have been caused by impact to the wetland.
I think that that's what the cases will tell us, and I'm happy to look at that more carefully. But yeah, I've rarely seen subsection E come up, and you know what I mean. I just haven't seen it come up a lot. And it would almost convert the wetlands statute into a close to almost a nuisance a law, right? So I'd like to take a look at it for you, so that I can give you a clear answer on that. But I do think it would be odd if if this would allow for a consideration absent any wetland impact. You know what I mean?
I do. This is Commissioner Boda, because, and that's why it struck, like I said, I don't remember this particular 10.2E being the catalyst for a denial. Like
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry. I mean, It's funny. I have seen cases where that language has been relied upon by unsuccessful applicants making a takings claim.
Hmm.
That a denial of a permit, for example, a denial of a permit would deprive a person of a reasonable use of their property and therefore constitutes a taking.
Right.
I've seen that.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
I've seen that case. But
Hmm.
we're talking about using it we're asking the question whether it's relevant in the opposite direction. So I'd like to take a look at that for you and give you some more considered guidance
That
if
would be
you.
very helpful.
Okay.
Any other issues with 10.2E? As long as Bill is gonna take a crack at looking what the limits might be on this particular one. Do we want to ask Bill anything else regarding E? Because as I say, I don't think if Bill's interpretation is going to be upheld with case law, I don't know that we spend a lot of time talking about safety as a result of wetland impact. All right, F. Can you post F, Jamie?
Sorry.
And I promise not to lean back. I don't know, the word, this is Commissioner Bassman, the words that get me that are reasonably related to and which are made inevitable.
This is Commissioner Armstrong. I guess how I'm interpreting this is, I think there seems to be some agreement that there doesn't appear to be sufficient evidence to suggest that there are short or long-term impacts to wetlands and watercourses on the subject property, the property that the application is being submitted. So, if there aren't any impacts to these wetlands and watercourses that are nearest the proposed activity, I don't know if we could argue that there could be impacts to wetlands and watercourses that are further away from the proposed activities.
This is Commissioner Bassman. I mean, I don't believe heard anybody claim that it's very likely an impact on the wetlands, let alone the word inevitable. Anybody have a different view than Commissioner Amrod on item F?
No, Commissioner Boda.
This is Commissioner Bassman. Jamie, can you take down the 10.2? So we've gone through 10.2. I think we were specific on a condition of approval, maybe addressing the cap issue. Is there anything else that we need to give Jamie some guidance as to what needs to get included on the draft report that we're likely to review at the next meeting?
This is Commissioner Begemon, and I believe, it was Ron or Robert Sonicson who talked about the placement of the wattles. There was some disagreement between the two experts of where the wattles should be placed in the new proposed plan, because of the ledge being up high, they would have to be in a different place. So that probably should get reviewed, and maybe it should be looked at by Jamie.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. So to clarify, I believe, I don't recall if it was Sonicson or I think it may have been
It's Commissioner Begemon. I'm looking at the minutes. It was soil scientist Robert Russo
yeah.
that the
So
erosion control plan should be revised.
I believe the concern was whether or not the wattle would be able to be staked in place given the shallow ledge and dirt condition. So if you would like, staff can kind of try and draft something to address that for consideration.
Commissioner Begemon, yes.
This is Commissioner Goklowski. We started these proceedings with no proposed plan for construction. We've had a couple different proposed plans for construction, and we have a final plan, hopefully, for construction. I would like to see a clear-cut definition of how they plan on reconstructing this wall and patio area, so there won't be any misunderstandings for the future. Because we've changed course so many times during the course of the original application or after the fact application. And I just want to have a better understanding, because I know they're trying to do the right thing, but I want to make sure the right thing gets done this time. That's all.
This is Commissioner Boda. Jamie, you want to pull up the proposed activity, because we can now just go and I think additional narrative. I also have additional narrative needed on the plan. Specifically for the removal, maybe it would be the removal and the replacement of the pavers.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, I believe I've got up what you're looking for. I also just want to clarify the commission at this point cannot request additional information that's not part of the record.
No, not this is to clarify. We're talking about conditions from my perspective. We're talking about conditions for approval. We were making a list.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, I was trying to address Commissioner Kuklowski's comment with that statement. But is this what you were looking for, Commissioner Boda?
Yeah, that.
Do you want me to zoom in?
A little bit, yeah. Can you tell from the deep lean into the screen? So I guess Commissioner Gukowski, is that narrative,
Yeah, I see that, Commissioner Boda. Thank you.
does it address your concern, or are there additional details that would be important for you to have documented?
Well, it says on number 3, it says remove soil behind the wall as necessary to meet proposed grades. I'm curious to find out how much soil they're going to be removing. And, because the way it sits right now, we don't have a direct impact based on the construction of the current situation. If we change the construction of the current situation, is there going to be an impact? That's my only question.
This is Commissioner Boda. Jamie, I can't open up anything in Chrome. Can you zoom back out? And we have sediment and erosion control. So is it indicated anywhere here where, so they said that remove soil, is there any place where it's noted? I don't see like a little stockpile location or anything like that on this particular sheet. Is that annotated anywhere else?
I don't believe that there's a stockpile indicated on any of the plans.
Okay, so that would be another condition, is to annotate where any soil that's removed would be placed, and if there are sediment and erosion controls that need to be placed around, if they're going to use a temporary stockpile. Maybe they're just going to haul it off site immediately. But regardless, it should be captured and noted on the plans.
This is Commissioner Begman. I'm just assuming, but maybe it says it somewhere that this work is being done by hand, not by machinery. Or if it's being done by machinery, we probably want to know a little bit more about that.
Amy, Frederick, and Wetland Agent. We can review the record to see if there was testimony provided on that. I feel like there may have been, but I can't recall for sure.
This is Commissioner Basserman. While we're on the wall, wasn't there a discussion about a pipe that I think paralleled the wall at the bottom, kind of like a pipe, perforated pipe that would direct the water flow in the event that there was water flow that was missing from the plan? Can you check that one, Jamie?
I'm sorry, Jamie, Frederick, and Wetland Agent. Can you repeat? I'm not entirely sure.
When we were having the discussion of the wall cap and the joint and all that, I also thought that there was a discussion about a pipe that I thought paralleled the wall, perforated, which helped divert the water in the event that there was water, that somehow got missed in the plan.
Jamie, Frederick, and the Wetland Agent. So the original detail for the wall did show such a pipe. There was concern raised over whether such a pipe was needed or appropriate for the drainage purposes. I think there's conflicting testimony from both party or from two of the parties. The detail was revised to remove that type of pipe. So let's see. Again, this is the final detail for the proposed retaining wall. And if we go back to an earlier plan, it shows this pipe. And the question was raised whether that was shown because the intention was to go back and add one, or if a pipe was not proposed. And in response to that, the revised detail was provided. Partially
And
in
Wetland
response.
Associate Katie Blanchett. Jamie, I believe that Jim Preddy did address that the last meeting and said that it was an accidental omission, if I'm not mistaken. But you
Jamie
definitely
Frederick
check
and
the
the
record.
wetland agent, I'm pretty sure that pertains to the joint seal where grade meets back of wall.
Oh, okay.
But we can double check the record to be sure. See if there's anything supplemental to confirm one way or the other in the written documents as well.
This is Commissioner Boda, can you go to the planting plan? And when we switch to our next item, I'm gonna have to jump off because I think I have to restart my computer because everything except for this Zoom meeting is frozen and so I can't get into the Dropbox.
We can take like a 5-minute recess for that. So
Well, we're about 10 minutes away from our 2-hour window.
Yeah, and I think that was a good, this is Commissioner Boda, I think that was a good 2-hour window. I think we should stick with it, which is why I'm asking about the planting plan because, yeah.
So the planting plan, I might have to move around a bit so everyone can see everything. It's calling for sod where the pavers are to be removed. And then it says various native shrubs / plants per agent approval to be planted in landscape stone mulch bed. And that's for around the back of the retaining wall. And then there's also the plantings along the edge of the water course, mostly in the wetland fringe area. It says shrubs to be planted along stream bank per letter from Davison Environmental. I believe that was Nanny Berry was what was suggested. And we can confirm that and or embody it in language for consideration.
Yeah.
This is Commissioner Goklowski. Under item 60, photos shown by the applicant, March 28th dated, there is a pipe coming out of the wall that I see in one of these pictures. I thought there was a picture of a pipe at the back side of the wall. There she is.
Yeah, Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. I believe there's 2 or 3 pipes that come out of the back of the wall. There are, I believe it's been represented that there's no associated pipe that runs parallel that ties into it. That there's crushed stone and that the water would travel through the material towards the lower corner and be able to discharge. There's also been testimony that there's been no discharge from those pipes, and the question raised ultimately of where the water goes. So there's certainly information in the record about that for consideration by the commission. But that's my understanding is that that's not associated with a pipe that runs parallel to the wall.
But those pipes are not shown on the proposed plan or the old plan.
They're just very hard to see. You can see PVC pipe.
Okay, all right, I see it now.
This is Commissioner Bassman, I guess, now that you mention it, Jamie, I think I do recall that conversation. If they were to put a parallel pipe in, they'd have to basically tear up the wall, right? To get those PVCs joined up.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. I don't know that I'm qualified to answer whether or not the wall would have to be removed to do that.
I think
Certainly,
I'm okay
I would
with
agree that material would have to be removed.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with the gravel. Okay. It's now 5 and 9. Is this an appropriate time for Commissioner Boda to reboot and make a motion to continue this to our next meeting?
Real quick, is there anything else that you want staff just to look at drafting or reviewing on the record for the next meeting?
This is Commissioner Boda. I think the big things was that planting plan. And just kind of, let's double check the sediment and erosion controls against any suggestions that were made by Mr. Russo and Mr. Sonicson. If there was something that we didn't was not recalled by us this evening that needs to be addressed. Otherwise, I am ready to wait. Which meeting are we? Do we need to ask for an extension? And I see Attorney Shansky is here.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. The commission has 35 days from closing the public hearing to make a decision, so it can be continued to the May 23rd meeting without an extension. The
Okay.
commission would not be able to continue it past that meeting date without an extension of time.
Okay. Is everybody good with May 23rd? What are we? How are we doing on May 23rd, Jamie?
A lot of tonight's items are getting tabled to May 23rd.
Okay, well, I mean, I think that we have a lot of what we need. And so maybe this can be very expeditious on the 23rd, especially if because you'll post the conditions in the Dropbox ahead.
Do you want staff to do like a draft resolution?
Yes. Oh, sorry. I don't mean to speak for everybody, but yes, there should be, I would say at this point, I mean, we have findings here. We've gone through 10.2 in its entirety, and the commission has extensively discussed each item. And so I think that we should have a draft resolution for issuing the permit with the following conditions. And we've been talking about those conditions. If anybody wants to suggest a draft for denial, now would be the moment to do it. And you would need to provide, we need to provide on the record the basis on which a denial would happen, and possible alternatives. So
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. So staff can certainly draft something, certainly with the understanding that it'll be reviewed by the commission and you guys can correct anything that we may have incorrectly surmised from the discussions, and that also town council is looking into something for the commission, which of course will be considered still. So we do have a lot of new commissioners. Just because staff is drafting a document doesn't mean that you are, tied to that. So.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Did I understand that the process is you would create this draft report and you would send that to the commissioners prior to the May 23rd meeting?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, I believe that aligns with our past practice. So that way it can be reviewed and commissioners can have kind of discussion points ready. And town council, would it be appropriate for you to provide a response to the question raised about section 10.2E in advance for the same reason? Or
I think
This is Commissioner Basserman. Before you respond, Attorney Inescovich, the thing that crosses my mind is we don't usually do that with our staff reports. We present the staff report at the meeting, and I'm just wondering, is it because there was a public hearing with deliberations that this is a different process?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. So I think it's slightly different because it's deliberations. As far as staff reports go, I do try and get them in the Dropbox so that commissioners can review them ahead of time. It doesn't always work out very well because of when revised materials are submitted. At this
Right, yeah.
point, all the materials are submitted, so all of the work is on staff to go through the existing record, which is quite extensive. But you know, we know what we're in for. And yeah, I mean, ideally, we would also get those staff reports out routinely beforehand.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry, Bill.
No, I mean, I guess, you know, the question that was posed was sort of how that language has typically been interpreted by the courts so that the commission has a working understanding of how to consider that criteria, how to properly consider that criteria. And Commissioner Boda, correct me if I'm sort of misstating what I think our exchange was. And so I'm not sure that we can in advance do that by way of proposed resolution. I think I could, if you think it's appropriate, Jamie, I could provide commission members with some written guidance on what I find in advance of the meeting. I think that that would help focus the discussion.
Jamie, Frederick, and the Wetland agent. I certainly didn't mean for it to be included in the any sort of draft resolution
Oh,
language.
okay. All
I
right.
meant
Yeah,
as a separate document, so that way, I mean, alternatively, it could be presented at the meeting, but it might be helpful for them to have that for consideration as well.
yeah. I mean,
Separately.
I'm happy to do. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Yeah, if folks think that will help. Yeah.
Okay, do we need a roll on the continuance, Jamie?
You want me to make, I can make a motion first.
Yep.
So I make a motion that we continue the, item inland wetland 24.01.02, 38 Howard Avenue to the regularly scheduled May 23rd, 2024 meeting. Deliberations to continue.
And is there a second?
It's Commissioner Begeman. I'll second that.
Any further discussion on that motion?
Yeah, Commissioner Goklowski, should we also include the other items that are associated with this particular item that are on the agenda?
I think that's a separate matter.
Okay.
On the motion before us that's been seconded, Commissioner Begeman, how do you vote?
Commissioner Begeman, aye.
Commissioner Boda,
Commissioner Boda, aye.
Commissioner Armrod,
Commissioner Ormrod, aye.
Commissioner Goklowski,
Commissioner Goklowski, aye.
Commissioner Basserman, aye. Okay, you need time, Commissioner Boda, to reboot, or?
Yeah, it should be quick. I'm gonna just shut down and restart. So I'll be back. Thank you, Attorney Yanukovych. Bravo, thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I don't believe you need me any longer. Is that?
We always need you, Bill.
Well,
this is an opportunity to exit. Fine, yes.
Well, I'm just, you know, yeah.
I know you need your shut eye.
I did review the agenda with Jamie before the meeting. I think, Jamie, unless you think I should.
I think we agreed this was the item.
Yep. Okay.
And
All right. Bye, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
all right, for clarification, are you calling a recess, or we do still have 4 commissioners if you want to?
Yeah, why don't we move this along? The next item on the agenda is enforcement in light of the deliberations and wetland 2401. And in order to provide process for all parties involved I will move to table review of the and consideration of the cease and correct orders, which is agenda items 3A and 3B, until deliberations for the pending application inland wetland 240102 are complete. And I'm looking for a second.
Commissioner Gokowski, second.
Any opposed? Let's see. I think we got 4. We can take a vote here. Is there you seconded the motion? Yeah. Any discussion further? Okay. Commissioner Armad,
Commissioner Ormrod, aye.
Commissioner Gokowski,
Commissioner Gokowski, aye.
Commissioner Begeman,
Commissioner Begeman, aye.
Commissioner Basserman, aye. All right. Next up we have applications for review. First up, 240202.
Jamie Frederick. And the wetland agent. I might actually ask for a quick brief recess because I have to use the bathroom.
You don't need to disclose why. Sure.
Sorry.
We'll hang on. Anybody else?
I guess I'll take advantage of that too. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Okay. I think we can resume the meeting of May 9th, 2024. We have applications for review this evening. Inland Wetland 240202, 1 to 17, Beacon Hill Road and Beacon Hill Road, formerly part of the property known as 83 Rose Hill Road, which is a new active adult residential community. We at a previous meeting identified the need for a peer review. We have received information in response to that request. And Jamie, why don't you take it over at this point and bring everyone up to speed?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland agent. So first I want to just acknowledge that Commissioner Bona has rejoined the meeting. And then a couple orders of business. And so, I'm not quite sure where to start. So I'm gonna start with the newest information first. So in addition to selecting the peer review today, the applicant was to submit the additional information requested by today's date, which they, I believe, have done. They have submitted information. I have not had a chance to look at it. And in addition to submitting that information, there was a letter submitted. I haven't had a chance to fully read it. It does request that the commission consider reassessing whether or not a peer review is appropriate, and or consider granting a fee reduction if my quick skimming surmises it quickly. And then as far as peer review response, staff did send it out to 8 different firms. Only 1 response was received, and I can pull that up for review. I don't know, given the information I just shared, how the commission wants to proceed. Do you want to look at that letter first, or do you want to look at the RFP response first?
Just Commissioner Bassman, just for clarification, the letter received asking for a fee reduction or the need for the peer review?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is,
Go
this
ahead,
is Commissioner
Commissioner.
Boda. So this applicant previously argued strongly that they don't think that a peer review is necessary.
This is Commissioner Bagman at the last meeting. They talked about that this had been an approved project for a subdivision in the past with I don't know how many units, and I think that was the basis of why would we need a peer review if it wasn't peer reviewed then. And the commission said it's a different time, it's a different project, and we need a peer review.
Yeah, and so we can look at it. I'm just wondering if there's anything substantially different in that that argument. I mean, I think our situation hasn't changed in that it's a different set of commissioners. We have new regulations. There's new guidance from the state but sure.
Okay.
Just
Yeah, like I
Commissioner
said, I
Raskin,
haven't had a chance to read the letter myself yet, but I do think, all right, let me just screen share real quick.
just Commissioner Bassman, but I don't explicitly remember them requesting that we not pursue a peer review. They may have intimated it, but I don't think there, in my mind, anything on the record that says that they opposed.
So does the commission want me to read this aloud, or is everyone good to read it on their own?
We'll read it.
This is Commissioner Boda. So are they asking for a permit modification?
Not Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I don't read this as that being the case, and they have submitted a new permit application
And
as
it's
I feel
not,
is
it's not
appropriate.
and it's not an extension of an existing because they're saying, I mean, it sounds to me like they're referring to a different permit, but they're not asking for an extension and they're not asking for a modification. So if it's this essentially the same property, then why wouldn't it be a modification or an extension?
This is, this is Commissioner Begeman. Commissioner Boda, are you talking about a modification or an extension of the 2009 application?
Mhm.
Are
Okay.
you saying that their current application should be a modification of the old application?
No, I mean, I'm saying they're making the claim that it is essentially the same. It's so similar.
So you're making the basically if it were a modification, that might be appropriate, but as it is a new application.
Yeah, I
it
mean,
may
if
not
it's
be
just,
as a
if it is a slight modification to an existing permit, that's something very different. But if we're looking at an entirely new permit, so if it's neither a modification to an existing permit nor an extension of an existing permit, then it's a new permit and we treat it as such.
And this Commissioner Bass, we generally don't just take a trust me approach.
All right. Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, in the interest of time, I have you fully addressed both requests, the peer review and the fee reduction
No.
request, or would you
No.
like to table any request regarding fee reduction? Backtrack. Does that stance apply to both the request for the waiver of the peer review and the fee reduction?
This Commissioner Basserman, my comment related only to the need for a peer review.
Okay.
I don't know about anybody else, but I think we have tended to treat application fee reductions as kind of a separate discussion.
This is Commissioner Begeman. If the applicant was somehow the applicant can always withdraw an application and submit a new one as a continuance of an older of that previous one of 2009 if they so chose, right? If they were somehow didn't realize that that's something that they could have done.
They do expire. It's I don't know the.
Yeah, Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. So, I mean, per state statute, this permit falls into kind of the sweet spot, if you will, for how long it can be active. I think it probably is the maximum time frame of 19 years. I think it's already been extended to that, very close to that time frame, if not fully to that time frame. So I think so I mean, certainly there is already a permit issued for this property, runs with the property. If the property owner wanted to move forward with developing based on that permit, they have the right to do so. If they were proposing a modification to that application, it would be their right to do so. Generally speaking, modifications are substantially similar to what was approved, especially in the extent of direct wetland impact activity in the wetland area, and certainly in regards to layout and various site components.
Commissioner Basserman, Jamie, is the new application, same footprint, same locations, or are both of them different?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, they're similar. It's similar, and that certainly consideration to keeping the layout similar was given during the design process. So I guess what I was trying to get at with, does this pertain to the peer review request and or the fee reduction request is, do we still have the outstanding question regarding the fee reduction request? And I guess, I don't know if the commission's ready for my thoughts or if you guys want to discuss first.
Go for it.
So I cannot think of a specific precedence for granting a fee reduction. However, I do think there are some unique situations where it wouldn't necessarily be that if the commission did think it was appropriate, I think there could be wiggle room. But I really, that's up for the commission to decide. And there's been times where the commission has reviewed a request and not necessarily immediately acted upon it, in the interest of getting a better understanding of what the review will actually be and the appropriateness of granting a fee reduction. So I guess the long and short of that is, you don't necessarily have to make a decision regarding the fee reduction this evening if you do not feel prepared to do so. Can everyone see the fee reduction request language from the letter? Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, Jamie, say that again.
I was just asking if everyone can see the letter.
Yes. This is Commissioner Bassman. Jamie, didn't we do a fee reduction, kind of an after the fact fee reduction for a local construction outfit about a year ago? Giordano Construction?
No, you might be thinking about a bond reduction.
No, that was recent.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. So there's 3 reasons to grant a fee reduction as outlined in the regulations. Let me pull them up real quick. All right. The activity applied for would clearly result in a substantial public benefit to the environment or the public health and safety, and the applicant would be reasonably deterred from initiating the activity solely on or primarily as a result of the amount of the application fee. That's usually if somebody's doing kind of more of a conservation type project, or maybe, default or a deferred drainage maintenance type project. The amount of the application is clearly excessive in relation to the cost of the town for reviewing and processing the application. I think from skimming it that this is the primary reason being asked. And C, the applicant has shown good cause. So I guess to kind of put it in past, I think this may have kind of been touched on. So if an application is submitted for a project and discussion starts with the commission and the applicant realizes they might be better off withdrawing their application and resubmitting when they can address the commission's concern, the commission has granted a fee reduction when they resubmit. That's again kind of on the permit modification standpoint, where it's by and large similar to what they were initially looking at, and or scale back of what the commission was initially looking at. And also there's that time frame component. The commission was recently looking at it, so it's not starting back at square one or a whole board of new commissioners looking at something that a different group of commissioners were looking at before.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Jamie, when are we expecting to get the peer review results?
So the peer review RFP identified that the report had to be submitted, I believe it was June 6th.
I guess this is Commissioner Bassman, I'm gonna make a motion that we table the discussion of the fee reduction until the receipt of the peer review and discussion by the commission at the meeting that would follow the receipt of that peer review.
So I would say, so I'll second it.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland agent. So to clarify, you said, so basically you're tabling it until the public hearing?
Well, yeah, we hadn't gotten to that point yet, so I didn't know how to frame it, but yeah, June 13th, I guess, now that we're on item 2.
So you have a motion and a motion that's been seconded.
Any further discussion?
This is Commissioner
Um,
Begman. This is Commissioner Begman, so we're saying that a peer review is necessary. I didn't know if we.
Commissioner
That's not
Basserman,
part of the motion on the table. That's a separate issue.
We'll
Well-
come back to that. Let's come
Well,
back to
no,
that.
because
No, because we're right.
It's not,
Commissioner
part of the
Begum, we're in the middle of a motion, and so like that motion has, this motion is specific to the
fee reduction.
the fee reduction. So let's just close this motion and then you can ask your question.
this is Commissioner Begman. It says after the peer review is received.
that is a good point.
So we can vote on it.
So
I'm gonna withdraw the motion. This is Commissioner Basserman, I'm gonna make a motion that this commission needs to have the peer review that has been submitted to the commission for
Well,
its
hold
review
on.
of the application.
I think if you're gonna make a motion about the peer review, that includes the, sorry, you have a motion on the table.
Hey,
Yeah,
hey, Jamie, is it okay if I speak real quick?
No, there's a motion on
Clarify.
the table.
Okay.
Sorry. Peter, I may just request that you withdraw your motion.
I withdrew the original motion. I gotta
Yeah,
withdraw the
no.
second one too?
Yes.
Okay, I withdraw that motion. Now where?
So Jamie Frederick and the Wetland agent, I understand it sounds like the commission wants a peer review. I think that you should hold off on making any motions that include the peer review until you have finalized the peer review decision. Just for clarity and so that I think it just works better.
to that end, I would like to make a motion just to finish off Chairman Basserman's initial, that we table the discussion of the fee reduction until the June
13.
13th meeting.
I'll second that. Commissioner Basserman. Any further discussion on the motion on the table? Commissioner Amrod,
I'm sorry, you cut out at the end. Table it to the June, what is it, the 13th is the meeting?
yes.
Commissioner Ormrod, aye.
Commissioner Gokowski,
Commissioner Goklowski, aye.
Commissioner Boda,
Commissioner Boda, aye.
Commissioner Begeman,
Commissioner Begman, aye.
Commissioner Basserman, aye.
Okay. Here we go.
Does that tie it up, Jamie, or do we need another motion?
Now we would need to talk about the peer review, and if we want to
Alright,
do
so
that, we do.
we've taken
then we
one-
need to take a motion.
One item, okay. I'm not entirely sure what Commissioner Boda said, but it sounded like
Right.
she's right.
You got to increase the audio.
I think it's my voice.
Oh.
Sorry. This is Commissioner Boda. I said, now we should have a discussion, yes or no, about whether we would like to go forward with the peer review, and we have someone responded to the RFP, so we should look at that. Oh, thank you, Jamie, very much. And then make a decision based upon what is in front of us. And make a motion for that.
I don't know that we need a.
Or not. General consensus. I don't know.
All right, so RFP was sent out April 15th in response to the discussion that the commission had about requesting proposals. As I stated before, it was sent out to 8 different firms. Only one response to the RFP was received. A lot of firms identified that they were either busy or did not have the in-house capability to respond to the RFP. I do have a brief memo outlining that available if commission wants to see it. And then the one response received was from CLA Engineers, Inc. And they broke up the response kind of into 3 separate categories. One being the initial review of the materials, which includes the site walk or site visit that they would conduct, not a site walk, not a commission meeting. Review of the materials requested. And they came with a not to exceed number for that. Second portion is review of revised application documents. That was requested because oftentimes there's a secondary review that the peer review has to do. And they came up with a number not to exceed for that. And then the third item is attendance at commission meetings. So the 3 sections together equal $8,800. And so generally speaking, if the commission were to move forward with selecting peer review, the process is that the applicant would submit the peer review funds. Staff completes a purchase order request. And once those 2 items have been completed, the peer reviewer can start the review of the materials. So that's the quick overview. I don't know if the commission has any questions for me or if the commission wants to allow the applicant to comment. It sounded like he had something he wanted to say earlier. I don't know if it pertained to the peer review or the fee reduction request, which at this point has been tabled.
Commissioner Basserman, Jamie, are those rates, hourly rates for both soil scientists and professional engineer, typical for peer review that we've received in the past?
Yeah, it seems to be in line with what I've seen.
Thank you. First of all, any commissioner have issues with what Jamie has shared on the screen here?
No.
Is there anything missing from the peer review activities? Okay, we have the applicant that Jamie, can you take down the letter? I haven't figured out how to do it myself. There we go. The applicant want to make a comment?
Yeah, Doug Anderson, Beacon Hill for the record. So basically the point of the letter was that, to date we paid just short of $12,000 in application fees, for this project. And, we don't need to go through the macerations of why we think it doesn't, warrant peer review, and we respect the fact that you want that. And that's obviously your desire. So, we made our points about the pre-existing project, the fact that it was a past industrial use, the typical stuff. So, I don't really need to focus on that. So our point was that, in addition now to the fee, we're looking probably by the time it's all done, another $10,000 in peer review costs, which again, I know is not part of your purview or a concern of yours. But so what we're saying is if in fact that, the peer review is going to be required, and the fact that we only got one quote out of everybody is, doesn't give us a comfort level of like, is it a real number? Is it excessive? Is it light? So, we have to go with what we get, right? That's what we have. So, if that's the case, then what we're saying is because the application for, the fee for the inland wetlands application is supposed to be reflective of the costs by the statute and all to review the application. That if that's going to be the case, then we would request that peer review fee be covered by the application cost. So that was really the intent of the letter, not to say we don't want them. I mean, of course, we would prefer not to have to go through the peer review, but that's the purpose. So I don't know if that helps clarify things or gives you clarity as far as the dynamics is from this side of the table.
Any commissioner have a question for the applicant? Mr. Anderson. Thank you, sir. So now we need a peer review assessment in terms, do we need to do a roll call vote here, or is general consensus good enough, Jamie? Does anybody feel a peer review is not necessary for the commission?
We need a motion.
Okay,
This is Commissioner Agaman. Maybe I do have a question for the applicant. I just understanding your request. Your request is to use the application fee to pay for the peer review. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. So right now we're looking, like I said, just shy of $12,000 and a probable, additional $10,000, let's say, when all's said and done. So we have a $20,000 application that potentially could end up in a no vote, right? And then that money's, long gone. So those are, again, the dynamics from this side of the table. And, if those funds could be used for that, we would ask that could be the case.
And Commissioner Begman, Jamie, does that ever happen? That an application fee gets used to pay for a peer review? I have,
Jamie Frederick, inland wetland agent. I would say no.
Okay, thank you.
is there a motion that anybody wants to offer regarding a peer review for inland wetland 240202?
This is Commissioner Boda. I will make a motion regarding inland wetland 240202 17 Beacon Hill, that the commission use the services of CLA Engineering and their proposal as a peer review for this application.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Goklowski, I second that.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Gokowski, how do you vote?
Commissioner Goklowski, aye.
Commissioner Boda?
Commissioner Boda, aye.
Commissioner Omrod?
Commissioner Ormrod, aye.
Commissioner Begeman?
Commissioner Begman. Commissioner Begman, aye.
Got it. And let's see, we have a public hearing. Do we need another
Did
vote
you
for
vote?
that, Jamie?
No, Peter, did you vote on that one?
I did.
Okay, sorry. No, that's kind of there just as a reminder, a placeholder. So in regards to that, staff will do the legal notice in the paper. And staff will also, I'll follow up with the applicant regarding the applicant required notices for the public hearing so that they can get those completed in time for that. Going back to the peer review, I'm not sure if if the motion should have included the not to exceed $8,800. I mean, it's in the
letter, isn't it?
It's in the letter motion. Yeah. Yeah. So essentially at this point, staff will start the PO tomorrow. We've already talked with parties that need to sign off on it so that they're aware that's getting in the works tomorrow. And then as soon as the applicant can submit the funds for that, we can move forward with the application for the peer review. So the peer review response did identify that they're okay with digital copies. I have requested a paper copy of the revised materials for the file. Generally speaking, we send out reduced sized copies of site plans and whatnot to commissioners. Do commissioners still want paper copies of the site plans, or is there anyone that wants just the digital copies that are available in the Dropbox?
Commissioner Goklowski, I'm fine with the digital copy.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, Commissioner Bassman, I guess I'll do that.
All right.
Mr. Ormrod, digital versions are fine for me.
Okay. Clarice and Suzanne, would you still like the paper copies?
This is Commissioner Boda. I think just the maps. I don't need paper copies of all the other reports. But the maps are good.
Commissioner Begman, I agree with Commissioner Boda about that. Just the maps, just a site plan, basically.
So staff will follow up with the rest of the commissioners that aren't present this evening and get a final number on reduced size copies, and the one full size copy is fine for the file. Anything else on this item?
Next up, new service building for Premier Kia.
All right, so that item's continued to the June 13th meeting.
Bingo. Inland Wetland 240303 22 Howard Avenue. Replacement of crumbling retaining wall. God. Possible agent review.
Wait a minute, did we skip one?
No. I said
Yeah.
new service meeting for Premier, and you said that's tabled.
You said June.
I was asking, but we're continuing the Beacon Hill one. But yes, if we're 206 North Main Street, I've discussed with the applicant. They're working on revised materials, and we discussed, and they agreed that it would be best to table and continue to the May 23rd meeting.
Cool.
May 23rd, okay. Inland Wetland 240303 22 Howard Avenue, crumbling wall, retained. Agent review possible here?
Yeah, so I should have deleted that language at this point. Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. I think it's gonna be a review by the commission. Still waiting on authorization from 2 Rustic Road. So table and continue to the May 23rd meeting. For discussion with the applicant.
Okay. Inland Wetland 240403 4 Liesel Lane. Site improvements due to change in use.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. The applicant is working on addressing comments, and again, we have agreed to table and continue to the May 23rd meeting.
Understand your earlier comment, Jamie.
Yeah, sorry for the last minute finding out.
I don't think anybody's complaining. Last up in the application for review, Inland Wetland 240404 33 Flax Mill Road, paving the existing gravel service for school bus parking, drainage improvements, and lighting.
This one's a green light. We're going. So yeah, this one's ready for review. I have a staff report available, but we also have the applicant present to give a presentation. It was for receipt at the last meeting, so no presentation has been received yet at this point.
Good evening.
You're on, Mr. Preddy.
Good evening, Jim Preddy, Criscola Engineering here at 420 East Main Street in Branford. Jamie, can I share my screen?
Oh, I'm trying to work on
This is Commissioner Boda. I have a question. It says school bus parking, drainage, and improvement. Is this connected to Branford Public Schools?
My understanding is that Mr. O'Neill got the contract to park the school buses here because they can't stay where they are.
And yes, it's Branford Public Schools.
Okay, as I draw all of my paycheck and health insurance from Branford Public Schools, I am going to recuse myself for this item.
Okay.
I'll have a quorum, so we can continue.
Okay. In any event, so this is the site of 31 to 33 Flax Mill. Some time ago, there was 2 parcels here, and that's why the address is that way. This was for many years Bradley and Upson, and then I believe Smedley stored cranes here. There's adjacent here, there is a G&G. I think they do like soil materials. Smedley is actually across the street over here. So this property, like I said, there's an existing building, which the back half of it is a garage, and the front piece is a two-story office space. And there's some solid paving up in here for some parking areas that they use now. The rest of this, right to every property line, basically, is currently broken bit, processed stone, millings, all kinds of stuff. Whatever they could make solid surface for the equipment that used to be stored here. What we're going to propose to do is basically create some buffer spaces around the outside and some landscaped islands, and then pave this for the school buses. One of the requirements for the school bus company is that it has to be paved. Stripes the spaces on the pavement areas to provide handicap spaces. There are actually at-grade doors on both sides of this front office area, a dumpster area for the office out front. Part of the application is this is the utility plan. They're adding an oil water separator for existing floor drains that are in the building. There currently is no oil water separator. He actually got us a sewer permit and started to put that work in, but the site currently drains pretty much everywhere to the center, or not to the center, but really to this end. In fact, if you ever driven by there, past a couple months ago, there was generally a puddle here. It's because these drains were blocked. Now that they've been cleaned out, the site doesn't really pond up like it was. We're going to add some drainage, modify this existing drainage, add some drainage, and then add some underground detention here so that we're actually reducing the runoff from the site from what's currently leaving now. To be clear, the only wetland here is actually off-site. There's a drainage ditch that's on the back of the controlled air property, which is on Thompson over here. This was, well, I know for a fact it was manipulated when the controlled air building went up, but I think the channel got regraded at that point. I think it was originally a man-made channel when all these buildings got developed. But when the controlled air happened, I believe this got kind of reshaped. But all of our developed area here is draining toward the center and connecting to the town drainage system out on Flax Mill Road. None of the runoff will head off site, with the exception of a little bit of grass area right on the edge. But all of the pavement area is going toward our catch basins, where we'll have some hooded traps and detention here, and then it connects to the existing system that goes into Flax Mill Road. We have typical details. We provided an erosion control sheet, although a lot of this won't apply because everything pitches to the center. Basically, we'll have inlet protection. And with this and some lighting, that's really it. There's really there was some interior cleanup of the building. I mean, right now he's been cleaning up this yard. It's been kind of a mess for many years. Pieces of equipment and so forth all over the place. That's pretty much it. I mean, it's pretty simple. Like I said, we're actually reducing the what qualifies as impervious surface here by adding all the green space around the outside and the landscaped islands. And we're reducing the runoff by including now underground, capturing some underground storage area. And,
Mr. Basserman, is the building drainage, roof drains? I assume there's roof drains changing.
They go to this catch basin now. And
that'll remain?
Yeah, they'll still go to that catch basin.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
This is Commissioner Begeman. So the area that's gravel and whatever else it is considered impervious now?
Well, the zoning regulation says that it is, because any surface that's paved or unpaved that you park and drive on, they consider impervious. The truth of the matter is, that's not always the case in real life. But given the fact that there was this is, like I said, processed stone and millings, and there was heavy equipment driven over this for many years, it's pretty solid. But having said that, when we did the analysis, we did use a lower CN for the existing addition than the paved surface, and we're still reducing the runoff here.
This is Commissioner Begeman. You're reducing the runoff to what?
To the drainage system that goes out to Flaxmore
Okay.
Road, the existing system.
Okay. Thank you. I was just wondering, it's Commissioner Begeman, about whether there's a change in the amount of water that would be sent into the public system or not, but it's
We're reducing it.
reducing.
And the town engineers already reviewed it and has agreed that we're reducing it.
Yeah, Jamie Frederick and the Wetland agent, we did receive comments from the town engineer, identifying that WPCA approval will be required. The submitted stormwater management report shows an overall reduction in post-development flow rates, with underground infiltration systems proposed to mitigate post-development peak flows. Next comment's not really terribly relevant in the wetlands. It says, I recommend the applicant/owner consider 90-degree car parking along the northern property line, 10 spaces instead of angled parking. The angled parking is facing the direction of bus travel. If that modification were to be made, it's on the opposite side of the site from the wetland. I don't expect it having any impact, and would suggest that that could be reviewed by staff. And then no accessible parking routes will be reviewed by the building official for compliance.
Just as a follow-up, the WPCA, because there's an existing lateral that connects to the sewer main, and there's existing floor drains on there, and they're only adding the oil water separator. He just needed a sewer permit, which he did get. I was actually in the town hall yesterday when he handed it to engineering. So I believe he's all set with that. And I don't believe that they need to go to actual WPCA meeting. They just needed the application.
And just Jamie Frederick and the Wetland agent, just for the commission's knowledge, generally the commission has not required WPCA approval prior to review of a permit. That's usually required at the planning and zoning stage. So also not terribly relevant at this time, for the commission anyway. I'm just going to screen share real quick some aerial images just to help show what the condition is. So this is the condition from 2023. You can see there's, a lot of equipment and whatnot stored. You can see that there's movement and storage along this shared property line where the wetland is located. And then this is a slightly more recent aerial image from when they've started cleaning up the site. A lot of the equipment's off. I did see that they were doing some activity. I contacted the property owner, met out on site with him the next day, take a look at things. It's pretty clear that they were clearing up a lot of from the previous use. In this corner, there was a bunch of broken up concrete they were looking at. They were removing. So I told them to install erosion controls along this property line, to make sure that nothing was running off into the water course off site, and to install inlet protection in the two existing catch basins. Instead of inlet protection, a straw wattle was installed, which seems to be doing fine for the time being. So the site is protected, I think, from current activities, and certainly the activities are looking to get a bunch of things that I'm sure the commission would rather not have on the site off. Let's see. And I do have a staff report if the commission is ready to look at that, or I've got some site photos and the drainage.
While you're getting the photos, Commissioner Begeman. So this site is what percentage impervious for the total square footage, and is that approved? That's okay in Branford? I thought that there was some, I mean, that might be a zoning question but it just seems like this whole property is impervious, and I didn't know if that's permitted.
Jamie Frederick and Llewellyn agent is probably a pre-existing type condition. If I had to guess, it would be a zoning question. There are some zones, I'm not sure what zone this is, that allow more coverage than others. And I'm not sure what the coverage is. I'm not sure if the applicant has calculated that out at this point. Is that on the site plan? Right.
Jim Preddy again, we calculate currently it's at about, I think 94%, we're reducing it to 77.
And do you happen to know what the zone allows for zoning regs?
I think currently none of the zones, go higher than 60%, but they used to be, I think before 2014, some of the industrial zones were as much as 75%. But this building, I was just going to look that up actually. It was built in an era where I don't think it was being paid attention to that closely.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland agent, it's my understanding that the Planning and Zoning Commission has a practice on a redevelopment type project that as long as the impervious area is being reduced from what is existing, and that there wasn't a violation in creating the existing condition, that is permittable. Is that fair to say, you think, Freddie?
That's been their practice, yes.
So this is looking at the site from Flax Mill Road into the site. You can see the hoop house type structure kind of thing. And the building is just off to the right. This is, I believe, from when I drove
Excuse
by
me,
and
Jamie, we're
Oh,
seeing,
you're not seeing it. 1 minute.
we're seeing
That
it.
work?
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
I can see it. All right, so this is looking into the site. This is the day that I realized I should probably contact the property owner. Just because it looked like there was, a little bit of fresh ground disturbance. Oh, this is actually the neighboring property. Okay, then this is the next day when I was looking at the site. As you can see greatly through all the vegetation growing on the fence, that's sarcasm. The water course is located right here.
That's to the south.
So, yeah, that's the offsite wetland. And then this is the fence up roughly on the property line. And this is like the concrete material that I was discussing that they were trying to get removed from the site. So I discussed with the property owner putting a silt fence along this property line, which I do have additional photos, not great ones. So here's the silt sock around the 2 existing catch basins. And then the silt fence was installed along that property line. There's a couple places where it could use some buttoning up, which I talked with the applicant about, but as long as they're not actively doing work, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. I also talked with the applicant about the fact that this erosion control suits the needs for the site conditions currently, but to make sure he reviews the site plan prior to implementing any approvals to make sure that the erosion control is the comprehensive plan that ultimately would potentially get approved.
This is Commissioner Basserman. You said you had a staff report, Jamie?
Yes. Alrighty. Site history has been intensely utilized with gravel dirt storage area throughout. No previous applications on file for this particular property. That's specific to the inland wetland files. I did not go looking in other departments. Wetland is located on adjacent property. Wetland location shown on plan. Wetland is modified and a primary service is drainage conveyance. Site plan calls out silt fence to be installed. Details provided for silt fence, anti-tracking pad, and catch basin protection. Staked hay bale barrier and hay bale check dam. Erosion control notes and details includes installation and maintenance information. Site work to clean up property has started. We've kind of already gone over that. Yeah, I've already mentioned all of that. Stormwater management on site is currently very limited. Proposed site plan proposes to add additional catch basin and add underground infiltration units. Parking area will not be curbed, but will be pitched to drain to the catch basins and associated storage areas. Kind of to elaborate on that, as Freddie was saying, just that grass area adjacent to the parking area would be draining towards the wetland area. Landscape plan layout by landscape architect Appleton. Plan is minimal in relation to the inland wetland, however, it does add a formalized green space between proposed parking area and edge of property / watercourse. The proposed vegetation in this area consists of lawn and red maple cultivars. Application has been submitted to planning and zoning. Comments were received and gone over from the town engineer. And they were sent to the applicant. So possible conditions for consideration: initial erosion control prior to land disturbance, planting inspection, final inspection, as built, and everything being staked out during the process to make sure as built is gonna be what it should be. Sediment control shall be installed in all catch basins on site during construction, consistent with details shown on sheet 5 of 5. If proposed modification to parking per third bullet point of town engineer email dated May 6, 2024 can be reviewed by the duly authorized agent. And then per state statute, this permit, if issued, would not be effective until any associated planning and zoning approval was obtained. Standard conditions and general provisions.
Jamie, this is Commissioner Goklowski. Did you say the actual inlands are off-site or on property line?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, they're off-site. They're just over the property line, probably like, I didn't measure it.
But in a close proximity.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just on the other side of the fence.
This is Commissioner Bassman, but fundamental, I think Mr. Preddy's comments were that everything drains toward the middle, not to the side.
Everything will, that's for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
With the
Jamie
exception of a little bit of fringe area of grass, all the pavement area will drain to the center.
Yeah, if you look at the spot contours, you can see that the edge of pavement is a high spot, going to low.
And this is Commissioner Bassman. Jamie, you've incorporated any of the comments that you received from town engineer into your 5 potential considerations for conditions?
The only comment I thought was appropriate to include was regarding the parking, because I didn't think that needed to come back to the commission. For reference, the parking spaces he's talking about are over here, and his comment was basically to just consider making them 90-degree parking spaces rather than angled, just to help facilitate traffic purposes. It's same amount of pavement, just slightly modified.
This is Commissioner Begeman. For alternatives to grass, to lawn, Jamie, is there anything that we think as a commission might be better than lawn for the wetland that abuts the wetland, or are we okay with lawn? I'm just thinking about, how lawn has to be cared for, treated, etc. I don't know if we're making recommendations when people come in with something like this about, well, instead of lawn, you might consider X. I mean, I know there's some trees going in the islands.
Yeah, Jamie being the wetland agent. I mean, I kind of had that thought myself. I guess where I landed is what the existing condition is. If you recall from the photos, it's
nothing,
not ideal. I suppose that could be a question for the applicant if they'd be open to a conservation mix. I'm not sure from a maintenance standpoint, if there's, I guess I would defer to the applicant to see what their thoughts are.
So Jim Preddy again, if the commission felt it was worthy, we could change along that southerly property line, we could change it to a conservation mix. On the east side where we're up against that existing block retaining wall, I would say, I think we should leave that grass because that's most likely where they're gonna end up pushing snow. And that all will run to the storm system. But along that fence where the wetland is, if we want to change it to a conservation mix, that's okay too.
Commissioner Bergman, that would be great. Thank you.
Kind of along that line, do you anticipate the zoning commission having any landscape requirements in that area that are not necessarily satisfied by this plan, or do you think this plan addresses it?
I never know, but I mean I mean lawn, grass or conservation mixed is considered landscaping, so we'll see. Like I said, that given what they have to do here and maintain bus traffic and the plowing and stuff, we're trying to keep it to minimal maintenance.
Okay, in the interest of everyone's time, if planning and zoning requires additional landscaping in that area, and in the interest of the question about would it be appropriate to require more landscaping in that area, would the commission be okay with staff reviewing additional landscaping, assuming it's native plants, rather than bringing it back to the commission for review? Something to consider.
Commissioner Bergman, yes.
So that
I
might be
agree.
another condition to consider if you're thinking that this is actionable.
Commissioner Goklowski, I have no problem with staff review for that.
Commissioner Bassman, likewise. Anything else on inland wetland 240404?
This is Commissioner Ormrod. On the topic of snow removal, snow management, is there any way we could mitigate? I assume they're gonna salt, sand, plow, etc. Is there any way to mitigate the snow piles being placed along that southerly boundary? Put them somewhere else where, they might, when they melt, they won't, transport salt and solution into the wetland.
Jamie Frederick in the wetland agent, do you mean like maybe formalizing on the site plan storage, snow storage areas versus no snow storage kind of thing? Or do you mean like putting a fence up to make it harder to plow into?
No, I think just something administrative, just to, like indicating on the plan, snow storage here, or something like that. Yeah, Commissioner Ormrod, I don't know if that's typical of large parking areas, but it seems like a relatively large area, and that could be if it's all treated with salt and they push it all to the southern property boundary, it seems like there's a good chance that it will melt and solute will get into the water course over there. So I'm not sure if we typically have a procedure for either a condition or just having it denoted on the site plan that there will be a designated area to pile snow or treated snow.
Yeah, the commission has, Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, the commission has required designation of snow storage areas in the past. So I don't think it would be inconsistent. I think perhaps based on the comments, one of those things that kind of starts to to dance the line of should you have it before you make a decision. But I think based on the comments presented by Preddy about the snow storage being along the shared property line with the train tracks rather than and not putting it over here, I think that there could be a condition to formalize that on a revised site plan. I think it's straightforward where and where not we're talking about. So I think that that distinction is what helps tip it towards something that could be a condition. It's when you get into we need an erosion control plan. That's too much. If you're saying perhaps, so like I have the detail about the inlet protection, the detail is in the plans. Usually there's a call out specifically for inlet protection to be installed. I'm on the wrong sheet right now. I didn't see it on the site plan, so I figured that was a fair enough way to address that. And certainly there's the information in the application materials to support the need for it to be there. So I'm oversharing, I think. I'm gonna stop talking.
Jim Preddy again. Jamie, could you zoom out on this map? So just go down to the bottom where the wetland is. So just to put a and I'm not discounting that. I agree, but I think all the snowplow is going to go up against that wall. But just so we're clear, that drainage wetland that's on the southern property basically just dumps out into the railroad yard, and it starts on Thompson Road. So the road drainage goes into it. I think all the drainage on the parking lot for 25 Flax Mill basically runs right directly into it, and then it runs around the corner and dumps into the railroad yard here. So even without us, I think it's getting, road salts and parking lot salts and all kinds of stuff.
So does it flow east and south, or because
it goes east or west to east, and then it just kind of disperses over there into the side of the rail yard. Kind of disappears.
Yeah, it was hard to tell which way it flowed from the information we had.
Yeah, it starts down to the left in front of 25 Flax Mill. There's a catch basin in the road, and it runs out that way.
Yeah, I don't know that I have a large enough. Yeah, it doesn't show it.
So this is Commissioner Batson. We have two additional considerations for conditional approval. The conservation mix and designating snow areas.
Yeah.
That's it, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could elaborate the conservation mix to just clarify that staff can review any additional native plantings proposed.
Right.
Through any modification process.
So do we feel we can act on this tonight, or do we want to wait for a revised staff report?
This is Commissioner Goklowski. I'm comfortable to allow the staff to move forward and then advise when it's done.
What do you mean by when it's done?
Well, I mean, I'm okay with an agent review with this process. Because planning and zoning is also going to be looking at this as well. So
yeah, I think with that in mind, there's two ways to proceed. One, either the commission can make a motion with the additional thoughts outlined, or if your commission's okay with staff doing it administratively, staff can take the discussion this evening into mind and have those things modified prior to acting on the application.
I guess if we could articulate the additional considerations and do a typical vote, kind of leaning in that direction myself. Anybody else feel differently? No problem. So, I guess I'll try it. I'll make a motion that two additional considerations, be added to what the staff report of, what's the date of the staff report, Jamie?
May 7th.
Of this May 7th staff report prepared for tonight's meeting. Item 1 is that the lawn area be converted from a grass area to a conservation seed mix and or vegetation that would be approved by inland wetland staff. And item 2, that a designated area for snow piling be shown on the plans for this site, as well as posted sign on the property.
This is Commissioner Begman. Can I make a friendly amendment that the conservation
Second it
mix?
first.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Begman, man, I'll second that.
And then you can make
Okay.
your amendment.
Now you
Okay.
can make-
Commissioner Begman, I just want us, that we should just say that the change from lawn to conservation mix is just in the southerly portion of the plan where it abuts the inland wetland drainage area.
That's a very acceptable amendment. I accept.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, Commissioner Omrod,
Commissioner Ormrod, aye.
Commissioner Gokowski,
Commissioner Gokowski, aye.
Commissioner Begeman,
Commissioner Begman, aye.
Commissioner Basserman, aye. Do I still have Commissioner Boda on or not? I can't
You
tell.
recused yourself from this matter, so
Oh, okay.
All set.
Anything else, Jamie, on this?
nope.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
It should all be this straightforward. Violation 142 Chestnut, removal of vegetation, earthwork without a permit to conduct regulated activities. Jamie, you have an update?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. So the soil scientist, my understanding, was going out either today or tomorrow to do some additional legwork for the wetland report. I sent an email, basically stating that it could be continued to the May 25th meeting with the understanding that the report would be submitted next week, so it could be distributed in advance, and that no further continuations of time would be granted without discussion by the commission.
Just for clarification, you said May 25th?
Sorry, May 23rd.
Thank you.
I wrote
Thank
down
you.
25th here, but yes, May 23rd. Thank you. So that would be continued to the May 23rd meeting. And then I think we missed it at the beginning of the meeting, but I would like to request that the commission vote to add an item to the agenda, which as item, what is this, 5B, for cease and correct order 240501 30 through 60 and 90 Red Hill Road, tree removal and associated cleanup work. Is there a motion?
I'll make a
Otherwise, it's also
motion
the May
that-
23rd meeting.
I make a motion that the additional item on the agenda identified by Jamie Frederick be added to the agenda for this evening at this point.
Commissioner Begman, second.
Okay.
Anybody opposed to adding that agenda item? Briefly, why does this get
Do I
added?
just have a
We gotta
vote?
do a roll call on that?
At least ask for approval. You just asked for no's.
Yeah, yes or no's, okay, anybody abstain? No, how about approvals? Commissioner Begeman,
Aye. Commissioner Begman.
Kubota,
Aye.
Commissioner Amram,
Aye.
Commissioner Gopal.
Okay, Jamie
Commissioner
Frederick.
Gopowski, aye.
Oh, sorry.
Commissioner Bassman, aye. Okay, the items added. Briefly, what do we got here?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. So it came to my attention, I was driving by and I saw that there was some activity occurring. Removal of sections of trees was occurring. So I contacted who I believe to be the property owner at the time, about the activity. My understanding is the trees were removed because they were concerned for the safety of their house, and property. They thought the trees were all on their property. It seems like the trees may have spanned the property line of the two properties referenced. So I met with the person that had the trees removed. I talked with them about the fact that it looked like it extended onto the neighbor's property and that I'd be reaching out to them as well, just to make sure that appropriate authorizations were in place to get to a resolution. So this kind of came up finalized last minute because I finally got in touch with the neighboring property owner, which is a group of property owners, so they had to reach out to all of the parties. So the person that removed the trees did not realize that they were in violation. They have been very responsive and have indicated that they're willing to do whatever they need to do to fix the problem. They've, I believe, have had a conversation with the neighbor regarding coming to a resolution. So there is, pull up some.
This is Commissioner Bassman. So what paperwork has been issued to them?
So I did issue a cease and correct order yesterday. I had talked when I met with the violator on site about the fact that it would be scheduled for discussion this evening. And I felt that a cease and correct order was the best way to move the process forward and get to a resolution in a timely manner. The tree removal, I believe, has occurred at least a year ago. So the vegetation has been down for a while. There is some smaller debris that certainly would be better to remove sooner rather than later, as far as allowing the vegetation underneath to thrive and grow in. So, and then as far as the larger tree removal, I thought it would be appropriate to have a conversation about how that's going to happen so that it minimizes any ground disturbance or further vegetation disturbance. They were using a small tractor type equipment to take the wood out, which was kind of compacting the soil and kind of causing a bit of a trail to be formed.
Mr. Bassman, don't we have to have a follow-up hearing on this now that it's a cease
This
and
is the
correct?
just cause hearing right now. So the violator is present. And we can hear from him after I'm done presenting everything. And you guys can talk about, you know, the appropriateness of any actions that need to happen, should happen, what have you. So in the order, I said that he should stop removal of large tree material, which he has done, until a plan for removal which minimizes ground disturbance and impact to vegetation can be reviewed. The tree that fell in the wetland area should remain, as it appears that the tree is not causing any flooding issues and the removal would cause further impact to wetlands. Excuse me, correct. As discussed on April 29th, the commission will review the violation at the meeting scheduled for May 9th. You may require a restoration plan for all or some of the unpermitted activity. And then I go on to say, 1, removal of piled woody vegetation by hand may commence as soon as possible with owner authorization as applicable. If removal of large woody debris from tree removal is proposed, means for removal which will reduce any further ground disturbance or vegetation impacts shall be submitted for review by the commission and or its duly authorized agent. If a restoration plan is required, the commission will determine what information is required, what professionals may be needed, which professionals may need to be involved in the planning process, and when the plan must be submitted to the commission and or its duly authorized agent. And then it goes on to the fact that there will be the just show cause hearing, and that can have a discussion as to whether the order should remain in effect, be revised, or overturned. So
It's time for Mr. Parrish to make comment.
before you hand it over, let me just maybe share a couple of photos and while I'm pulling that up, I discussed that if the commission does require a restoration plan, it would probably be planting of some replacement trees. So, can everyone see an aerial image?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
So, you can see a couple of trees on the ground here. These are the trees in question. The aerial is dated March 29th, 2023, so approximately a year ago. And the access to remove the trees were coming off of Red Hill Road over here. There's a slope here. And I think the concern was the fact that these trees are growing on ledge, shallow soils, and you know, them getting uprooted or what have you. And the owner of 90 Red Hill Road can clarify or elaborate on that if so needed. So here's a picture of some of the cut up wood to be removed, and the means for which it was being removed. There's a small trailer and this little tractor. And this is the compaction that I was talking about. And you can see the skunk cabbage roughly corresponds with the limits of the wetland area. Water course that goes under Red Hill Road, and the wetland complex kind of again is approximately where the red skunk cabbage is, and the tree removal is kind of back in this area. Oops. And then this is a picture from the deck at 90 Red Hill Road. There was no ground disturbance with the tree removal. The stumps remain in place. It's my understanding that is to be left. There's this smaller woody debris that can be removed by hand, and then there's these larger tree trunks, which would probably require some equipment. And then this is the tree that I was referencing should be left alone. So does the commission have any other questions for me, or you want to hear from?
It's Commissioner Begman, those two trees that are on the slope, kind of toward the bottom of the slope, why can't they just be left there?
Well, that's part of why the order said if the trees are to be removed. So I think there's the desire to clean up the property a little bit, and I believe that that is the neighbor's property, so there might be I discussed that this would be have to be a discussion with the commission, because I know that generally speaking, when trees are removed near a wetland, the commission likes to see that the material stays. I think the one consideration I have here is that the material is kind of piled, so it doesn't provide quite the natural condition that the commission would look to see. So that's not to say it's right or wrong to leave or remove. I think that the owner of the property where the tree removal occurred is looking to have it cleaned up. And I do think that the commission should consider that in review. Not to say that it's end all be all, because there's the commission's jurisdiction, but right now the property owners are working together and trying to the person that removed the trees is trying to correct the matter, and kind of want to keep both property owners looking to come to the table.
Commissioner Basserman, maybe it's a good time to get some brief comments from the individual who was served the cease and correct order.
Hi, my name is Chris. Thank you, Commissioner Basserman. I'm 90 Red Hill Road, Christopher Parish. I spoke with Jamie about this issue. I got a letter and became aware of my misdeeds, if you will, and I'm ready and willing to make amends and work towards resolving any of this as I can. Several of the trees, many of the trees really were leaning over the house and were basically dying. So I was trying to protect my property. Doesn't change where I was at and why I did it and that it was wrong, but I'm willing to get things resolved and move forward.
Commissioner Basserman, is there anything in the cease and correct letter that you received that you have issue with?
No, sir.
Any of the commissioners have questions for Mr. Parrish regarding what we've witnessed in the photos that Jamie provided and the cease and correct? Anything on that we want to add in the cease and correct? Jamie, when there's the cease, go ahead.
Hit the mute button because Commissioner Boda. So just with that additional light, Jamie, do you have anything about monitoring and removing invasives as because they're gonna just flock if they're not already?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch monitoring. I heard and then didn't hear after that.
And like any hand pulling of invasives that, because I'm sure it's already covered in garlic mustard instantly with that much light coming in where there wasn't before. And it'll just march right down. So whether it's the garlic mustard or celandine or, you know, some of those that just, as soon as there's a disturbance, they're find their way. So I don't have the language up, but that should probably be incorporated.
All right, so to include a monitoring plan to manage invasives from the area where the trees were removed.
Yeah. And a lot of that stuff honestly, if you start hand pulling it now, your life will be a lot easier because really it's the garlic mustard, the celandine, there's a few other more prickly things that once they take root, it's very difficult to get rid of. So you're better off starting. And UConn has some really good resources that I'm sure Jamie will share with you so that you can identify the stuff that's coming up that you just want to go pull it right away and deal with it properly. So you're not spreading it in the way that you remove it.
All right.
So Jamie, Frederick, and the wetland agent, to clarify, are you okay with the owners doing that themselves and not requiring a formal plan from like a soil scientist or something like that? That's what it sounds like from your.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that stuff, you know, you can, but you gotta have the resources to know what you're pulling. So perhaps that's something you can work together on.
Okay.
Learning all about invasives. Next time.
Okay, so one follow-up question I have for the commission is, do you have concerns about the large tree trunks outside of the wetland area being removed, or are you comfortable with leaving that up to the owners to make a decision with the understanding that if they are to be removed, a plan for how that's going to happen should be reviewed with town staff?
Again, this is Commissioner Boda. I'm with Clarice Begeman, with Commissioner Begeman. I would rather see them just left in place, you know, and maybe if they're stacked on top of each other, just move one over to the side if that's feasible, or cut it so that it falls. But you know, that stuff is better off left there, and cleaning up is sort of a, I don't know, perspective, I guess. And if we could get some canopy back, that would be good.
So is that requesting for trees to be planted, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want that to come back to the commission, or are you okay with staff reviewing that?
Maybe a staff review.
Staff review?
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of looking for
our next meeting, so.
Yeah. So I guess one thought process I have right now is, the order was issued to one of the two property owners. The other property owner is not present at this meeting. So the question I have is, does the commission want to formalize a decision on the order or move forward with this understanding? And the thing is, it has to be resolved at some point if you don't resolve it, but
Jamie,
I-
Commissioner Boda, it's a just cause hearing, and everybody was noticed properly.
so this order was just sent, it was just sent to the owner of 90 Red Hill Road. The owners of 30 and 60 were CC'd. I told them that it would be discussed this evening when I met with them on Wednesday. But they definitely hadn't received a copy of the letter by the time that this meeting has occurred. And I do know that they were looking to have the property cleaned up. So I guess my concern would be if they take issue with leaving the large tree trunks and
If they take
haven't-
issue, then they can, you know, they can talk to you and see about getting back on the agenda. But for now, I think like this is where we are, and let's let it play
Yes,
out.
Commissioner Basserman, I thought part of the discussion you had, Jamie, was you want to keep the neighbors talking. To see if we can't resolve this relatively smoothly and quickly.
Right.
So
Right. So I guess my concern is I don't want to make an unadjustable decision if one party is not happy with it, particularly one party that's not here. So maybe it's modified. 1 minute, let me pull up the order. To say in the order that removal of, so you want a restoration plan to replace some of the removed trees. It's kind of like a 1-for-1 based on tree stumps. Reasonable.
Ish, yeah. I
I
think
realize you're not going to get a mature tree from a small tree, but
no, but and if you crowd them, then they're not going to get as big as fast anyway. So
okay.
I think the goal is the canopy more than a count.
Okay. And so that can be reviewed by staff. The removal of any debris by hand can be completed because there is some piled debris that's too thick. And then there should be no removal of the large tree material remaining. Maybe with a caveat that should there be any concerns from property owner of 30-60 Red Hill Road, the matter can be revisited by the commission.
Sure.
Mr. Parrish, do you have any questions or concerns based on what was just discussed?
No questions, no concerns, and I'm willing to do my part and get things resolved.
This Commissioner Begman, I just have, if you have any suggestions to the commission, Mr. Parrish, about, or with the town, of what the town can do for residents about knowing about wetlands and wetlands regulations, please give them to Jamie. If you have any thoughts about it, because we run into unwitting violations all the time, and we're always behind the 8 ball. So I would appreciate that.
In my case, I'm just new to the area, so it doesn't absolve me of anything. Just saying, I had no idea really. So now that I'm aware, I'm willing to comply and do what's necessary, and I will, if I can come up with some ideas that would help. Probably when we come to register to vote and do other things like that is probably a good time for us all to become aware of that, especially when you're moving into the area.
Thanks.
thank you for that, Mr. Parrish.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, Jamie, or can we move on?
If the commission's making a decision on the cease and correct order, if we can have a motion to that effect, that would be good. Or if you're just want to continue it for some reason to another date.
Are we
No.
leaving it open because we're?
Okay, so we are leaving it open. Okay. Well, I was a little confused. I was wondering if we're building it into the order or if okay, so we'll leave it open, but based on state statute and the regs, it's in effect until otherwise determined by the commission. So any activity discussed this evening.
Why don't we, so Commissioner Boda, why don't we leave it open? Let us, regardless of what happens, revisit this in July. Pick a meeting, first meeting, second meeting in July. And if the folks haven't like come back and been like, I hate this, I need to talk to you about it, then we can revisit closing it.
Okay, so leave it open, continue it. We need to continue it to a set date. So let's say, for the sake of argument, July 11th. And if there's any concerns from either party, we can revisit it sooner if needed, because we don't want it to just stall out until July, right? And that the items discussed within the purview of what the commission has discussed this evening can commence. Correct?
Yep.
Okay.
We have no application.
I can't hear you, Peter. I can see looks like you're talking, but.
Oh. We have no other business, no applications for receipt. We have an agent review in the Wetland 240301, 72 Parish, and 10 High Meadow, grading in a new barn. You think that this is appropriate for agent review, Jamie?
Yeah, Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. The commission reviewed this previously. It was submitted in response to a notice of violation. Looking to have stormwater added to the plan for the barn. And I think the applicant is debating whether to move forward with adding the stormwater plan to the plan or removing the barn and just doing the grading portion under the application that has been submitted. I discussed with him that he could move forward either way to resolve the notice of violation issues. And he agreed to some additional time so that he can make a decision and get a revised plan either way to address what he's doing.
Is Commissioner Bassman, do either choices impact your feeling of agent review?
No.
Okay. Correspondence and announcements, there's nothing listed. I don't have anything else on my agenda. I don't think at this point it's appropriate to add anything. So if there's a motion to adjourn, I would entertain that.
So moved.
Second.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Right.
Good night.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.